whatever's playing. So that's a vocal. Not too loud. Bring your volume up to the full.
His Majesty is coming now. Rejoice.
Yes, family. Back inside. Alongside Dougie and special guests outside Raggedy. Try drop some tune, but I still have a lot to learn.
You're holding me down for like you don't want him to see your tunes.
No, I did not. And this is the Investigator original. Corner Campbell, different mix. You know, so you can play all with a remix as well. You know, don't have to play the original all, just all. We can play all with a remix. And stand by for Brother Dougie with special guests after this one. As we enter inside. I don't know what the man I deal with still, you know. I don't know what the man I deal with, but anyway, a hot day, so it must be delusional still from the heat wave. Big up Raggedy. Take it to school right now. I'm bringing in a man like Dougie. Dougie, come in.
Yes, a big tune of both now, right? Big tune. Why I remember rating them tune them and I feel nice. You know? Just dance for women, they feel nice, right?
That's right, the old days, you know. Oasis, Nations. House party. Yes, Dougie, so I know you have a fully loaded show, so I'm not going to hold you up any longer. So come in.
Yes, sir. First one, big up to each and one of you out there in the radio land, you know, because as we could say that we do have a special guest. I don't even want to wall up because I want to make sure everybody gets as much from him, you know.
When depression came, I didn't see the past in my life.
This is a man of the
violent
moment.
abuse I suffered as a child.
This is a man who
my
is
uni education that had
rocking
been
the
denied.
nation
So many things I'd suppressed
with his journey
inside,
and his
with nowhere
story.
to run and nowhere
See?
to hide. In
And
a
you know the
pitch black
last few
tunnel
weeks we touched you
with
out
no
about
light
what?
inside. Depression came like a thief.
Around mental health. And when I first heard this brother play this CD, I was just blown apart. You know? Listen very carefully now.
My appetite for business and money was gone. Life became devoid of fun. A good woman was needed, but I couldn't find none. My chances were 1,000,000,000,000 to 1. As suicidal thoughts came along, it took much more than just being strong against a thing so forceful, not so easy to overcome. Alcohol and cocaine, they were the enemy, and not my friends.
You hear that?
But
You
way
hear
back
that?
then, I didn't comprehend. As they anesthetized the
Alcohol
pain,
and
anger,
cocaine.
torment. To forget the
There wasn't
years of
each
betrayal
friend, there was
from
the
family
enemy.
and friends, and women who came for financial gain. Massive burglaries I suffered again and again, feeling like an outcast with a million friends. Committing murder appeared to be justified after the way that I'd been crucified, but somehow God kept me off that path, because only God could abate my wrath.
Okay then. So again, we have a special guest inside the house. And, you know, it took me a few weeks to get him on Mondays because this man have a busy schedule. But one thing I'll say about his brother here, his word is his bond. If he says he's going to be somewhere, he's going to be there, you know. And he made a commitment to be with us, you know. And as they said, your mess has become your message. See? So I want to go straight into the chase now because we don't want to waste no time. See? And we do have the great man, Tamara, inside the house. See? Beautiful brother.
Blessed love. Thank you, Brother Dougie, for inviting me here to this wonderful show. And I love light and healing to all you beautiful and wonderful people out there. You know, the sun is shining, you know, the light, you know, that's beautiful. You know, we're getting lots of vitamin D today to energize us and boost up the immune system and relax the body and ease the pain and, you know, and even to lift the depression, you know.
Right.
The sunshine, you know, because a
Well,
lot of people
yeah,
get
man.
depressed in the winter
In the
time.
winter time.
And the darkness, you know. And,
Yeah.
and if you're dark inside and it's dark on the outside as well, it's a
Absence
serious
of
trouble.
light.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. The absence of light,
Light.
you know.
You know, but you see, I'm going straight to the reasoning because we've been touching the whole thing about mental health, depression. You know, those who are going through certain kind of challenges. See, and one of the things is that the reason why I'm talking about this because in this year, two men, one of them I know very well. A few years younger than me, I know very well, committed suicide. And the elder just the other day just hanged himself. See? And if we knew the signs or do they come to us, maybe they might be still around. See? But one of the things we get to realize that men don't talk, you know, men just word things down. They say, word it down, nothing wrong with you, man. Just word it down, you're a man up and all them kind of stuff there. But deep down you're crying inside. See? So the truth matter is that I know that you've had your challenges, see, and a lot of it started from childhood, yeah. But I wonder if you just bring up to speed what happened with you and you know what happened, yeah.
Yes, well, you know, depression came like a thief in the night, like them say, you know. Suddenly I was up 1 minute and suddenly I was down and I was trying to get back up and I just couldn't get back up. I was in a dark place and kept trying to light up the place, you know, put on a smile, a laugh, crack 2 joke, drink 2 champagne, you know what I mean, smoke 2 split. But boy, it wasn't happening, you know, so, yeah, you know, the coke and the crack came along. I thought, yeah, well, we could try and live it up through that. That it just got darker and darker and darker. And of course, later on, many years later, the doctor told me after she diagnosed me as chronically depressed that alcohol is a depressant. So using alcohol to anesthetize or to treat depression has an adverse effect, just as using cocaine and crack does, you know. Yes, these things actually, the combination of these things can drive you to a suicidal place. It certainly drove me into a suicidal place.
Okay then. Cause I know that like no, bring up the speed that music. I know you got a brilliant CD. I recommend everybody get his CD, Ex Gangster, and it's more of a a message, but I think it's more of a healing, yeah?
Yes, it's a spiritual album, Ex Gangsters Odyssey. You know, the X is very important in this. Ex Gangster, not no gangster. X. That means to say was, not anymore. You know, I mean, that them days they're done.
See.
You know, I've lived it, I've breathed it, I've ate it, I shot it out, and I pissed it out as well. You know what I mean? And laughed it out and so on, and jailed it out too, and, you know, smoked it out, whatever. It's done now, you know, and only by the grace of the Most High. I had to change many things in order to recover. And one of them was to leave crime alone, and violence alone, and dishonesty alone.
See.
For me to recover from drug and alcohol addiction. Yes, indeed.
Okay then. So what was the turning point? Because one of the conversations me and you had is that, you know, God or Ethiopian church where you was invited to, and that was the turning point. Yeah.
Of my recovery.
Yeah.
Well, you know, my recovery, the turning point was really in Wandsworth Prison.
Oh yes.
You
I
know,
think you were saying
in
to
the
me, yeah.
basement cell there on E Wing. You know, now we had a job on there on the hot plate. You know, and doing all the prison laundry and all them kind of things, and cleaning out the shower room and the toilets and all them. So that kept me out of the cell all day. And yes, and it was one moment I was suddenly caught up in a moment of truth, or a moment of what people call clarity. You know, hadn't had no coke or crack in my system for weeks, no alcohol neither for many weeks, no, maybe a few months. And I realized I had no home to go to when I left the prison. I had no money. I had no friends. Not even my family wanted to know me, you know, because during the course of the chronic part of my addiction, the last 4 years, it was terrible and dreadful. I even stole from my own family, you know, just to feed the habit and so on and so forth. So there I was, and I said, my God, this is really the end, you know. And I reflected, you know, I looked within myself and said, why, how has it come to this end here? Yeah. Because of your coke and crack and alcoholic habit, behavior. And I said, yes, that's true, you know. And I got down on my knees instantly, you know, with a great feeling of remorse, you know, and repentance, you know. I said, God forgive me, I'm a drug addict, alcoholic. I never would admit it. And as long as I was in denial, I could never recover. My denial kept me drinking and drugging for far longer than I really ought to have done. You know, and it was that honesty, and I said, God help me. And before I could get up off the floor in the prison cell, a prison officer full up the, he sort of lifted up the flap and said, do you want to go to an AA meeting?
Okay.
And I said, is this automobile about cars? He says, no, it's about alcohol. and with people with alcohol problems, I say, yes, put me down on the list. I want to go to that meeting there. That very same day later on, early that evening. Yeah, and I thank God for sending me help that instant.
Right. So it's really when he was in prison, and is at that turning point where he was at rock bottom. You start asking questions about yourself, in relation with your family, and this and that, and it's funny enough because me and you was reasoning, and I played a clip with Lisa Nichols, right, and she was saying that she had an 8 months son, right? And she had something like $11 in her purse, right? And at that moment, she said she was broke and beaten, right? Broke and beaten. And she said to herself, I never asked for, my son never asked to come to this world to appear confusion, right? I made a promise to myself that we will never be broke. We will never be broke. And, she just feel that just by saying that and being honest with herself. And he said that was the turning point with her. And she went to different kind of seminars, courses. She went to the same seminar about 42 times, right? To learn about money, how to market yourself and this and that. And she got a loan or some funding for about $500,000 to set up a program to empower young people. And that was her turning point, see? But she was rock bottom, right? And when I look at you, my brother, because to me, you're just one of them amazing of talent. You know what I mean? You're something, not something, you just know you're talented. You know what I mean? Just the way you talk, the way you rally around people, you got that kind of personality, and you're just talented, and you're gifted. But to reach that level there, you have to go, you was rock bottom.
Yes, rock bottom. Otherwise, and you know, had I not got honest there and then, the only other place would have been to the grave. You know?
The grave, yeah.
Yes, if I hadn't risen, I would have fallen down in the grave. That's for sure.
But coming back to the root of, because one of the things we were saying is that your dad was very much a military kind of regime with you, and it kind of made you timid and abusive, and yeah, that element to it. And
Yes, I think my father suffered from insanity. That's all I can put down to it, because you don't beat children, a 7-year-old boy, nearly every day for nothing. And if you miss out a day beating, you say, well, listen, you think you miss out, I'm going to give some more tomorrow, you know. If I have enough time, I'll give it to you later on tonight. You know, the man was obsessed with beating me without doing him nothing wrong whatsoever. I never asked to come to England. It's them sent for me. I was very happy living in heaven as a little prince back home on the beach with my grandma and my sister and brother in Dominica. Yes, and it was a great, it was a traumatic shock for me, from heaven to hell. It really was. But I must say that I loved my father even through all that. I still had, there was a love for my father which could not be moved, you know, regardless of what he did, you know. And it's the same thing for my mother, you know, who didn't treat me too good either, because she beat me up now with domestic duties. You know, so me can't get off for play. You know, me have to sweep, me have to cook, me have to clean, me have to wash, me have to iron, me have to make buckle, me have to change nappy. At the age of 7, learn how to peel potato and gut fish and scale fish and learn how to season food and fish and all them things there. Early from them age there. Yes, I was really, you know, it was full on. I was living the life of as a 7-year-old, I was more living the life like, I don't know, I'm an 18-year-old or, you know, 21-year-old, you know, with all these responsibilities. Yeah.
So, when you left home now, what was like, because was you kicked out, or what was the relationship like when you left home? You left home very
Oh,
early.
Lord, yes, when I left home, it was a terrible depression, you know. It was heartbreaking for me because, you know, I yearned to go to university. I wanted to study law, you know. I wanted to become a Perry Mason type lawyer and help, you know, poor black people, you know what I mean? I help them out in court and things like that, like Perry Mason. I thought, yeah, I'd like to be that, the black Perry Mason, you know? Yeah, and yeah, do that at uni. But I was a singer-songwriter even then, and I sing professionally with a band from the age of 12. So, but that was like the law thing would just be there to back me up, you know what I'm saying? Anyway, the old man, he messed up everything, you know what I mean? Apart from taking me off from school, so I couldn't take my O and A levels, you know what I mean? They also denied me the money I needed to buy the new PA system for because my band, the tracks had gone up in the world. We're playing in bigger venues. We were supporting big acts that went on top of the pops and all that, like a band called Greyhound and all that. And, you know, and really and truly, they wouldn't buy me the stuff. And I earned thousands of pounds prior to that as a schoolboy. and they wouldn't buy me the equipment I needed, and so that ended my career not only with the band, but also at school as well. So
See. So what was the name of the band?
Trax, Trax, yeah. It was a soul band with some reggae flavors. You know, we did a few reggae numbers.
Okay then, fantastic. So from an early age then you was, singing and
Oh yes, oh yeah. From a very, very early age. I won my first singing competition at the age of 7 when I got here. Actually, at the boys' guilds. Yeah, there was a church boys' guilds. And that all took off from there.
okay then. But moving forward, in terms of looking at the whole thing with the church, because I know you're very committed to the Ethiopian Orthodox Church, and again that impact where you are today. You have right in saying so?
Oh yes, it's a big, big, big impact because when I became a member, when I got baptized in the Ethiopian Orthodox Twahedo Church, it's like as though certain demons that I had struggled with for a long time certainly had no more power whatsoever. Again, I was. A lot of things that I maybe struggled with, like maybe getting angry or getting very impatient or even intolerant. I found there were certain places in my character that needed strengthening and straightening, and they got strengthened and straightened, and I also even got more honest with myself, because honesty is a thing that you have to keep nurturing it, otherwise you could lose it, you know what I'm saying? And apart from that, also the Ethiopian Orthodox Church was where I managed to get a contract, I signed a contract for my autobiography, a book called From Rehab to Life, and
it's
yeah.
a book. Okay.
Yeah. Yes, and also, and the church, certain members in the church were very supportive during my journey there with writing my book and, seeking publishers to get it published. So we got a publishing contract, and also at the same time, being with the church, I've also started the From Rehab to Life Foundation. And I've also received support from the church in that direction, encouragement, and so on from the church in that direction. So things have opened up in many ways for me being with the church.
So how did you get involved in the church? Did someone invited you, or how did that work?
Well, a brother said to me, Brocky said to me, I was by Clapton Pond there, oh, he said, you must come to the church, V, because, people know me as Vanda back in the day. I'm sure there's probably people out there listening now who knows Vanda, and I said, well, why should I go there? He said, just go there, man, just go there, things will improve for you. So anyway, I didn't listen to him. So when I saw him again, he said, did you go? I said, no. He said, you must go, brother. Doors will open for you. And I said, okay, I'll go. And when I went to the church, to be honest with you, I felt like I'd met my family that I hadn't seen for a long time. Honest to God, honest to the Most High Creator. That's how I feel. I feel like I met a family I hadn't met for a long time. I also had a spiritual experience while I was in the church there. Which involved, smelling a certain fragrance that no one else could smell but me. And I'm saying, man, where's this coming from? And I was told, well, that's the smell of the Mary, Mother of God's garden. Mama Mariam, Dingo Mariam, Zion's, garden, flower garden. And very few people smell it. I say, well, boy, I'm home. I'm going to stay. I know the people in the church, they're not perfect, and so on. Neither am I, but I'm comfortable there.
Work in progression.
Work in progress, yes.
Work in progress, that's absolutely right. Yeah, so we listen to the great man, Tamara inside the house, and as I said that, the man is as I said, your message has become your message, and it's got a very powerful message to share to the world. See, no question would be now. In terms of like now, because one of the things I know you were saying that you would like to probably go into schools, university, colleges, and yeah.
Oh, yes, we need to get into these schools, colleges, universities, academies, prisons, rehab centers and so on, ASAP, as soon as possible. Also with our workshops and questions and answers, and also with some, drama sketches and things like that. We need to get, to prevent a lot of youngsters from going down that road. Prevention is a thing that we're really keen on helping in helping to manifest in the community, preventing a lot of the youths from going there in the first place. Because once they're there, it can be very difficult to come back. In fact, most never come back. So the aim is to prevent rather than cure.
Yeah,
and so we need anybody who got any help out there to get into these schools and so on. Please tell us at FromRehabToLife.com, From Rehab to Life Foundation. You can even call me on 07956 07956 07956 76920. Oh, sorry. Let me repeat that. It's 07960 976 920. I beg your pardon. 07960 976 920.
Yes, I've got a number here as well, so so it's quite interesting because you are like a voice for those who going through mental health, depression, and you're one of them ragamuffin, voice for the ragamuffin, the Donald Oat, I would say, because you're like the Terminator, or even not even the Terminator, the Rambo. But they still just friction thing because you're the real thing, They're my imposters, you know what I mean? So you're just out there, man. So what would you say to those who are out there now who are going through certain challenges? You're going through depression, mental health, because as we said that we've been touching on this, and the reason why we want to touch it because we want to have a conversation. We want to break the stigma and the ignorance, and ignorance means ignoring the facts. What would you say to those who go through all this kind of stuff?
Yes, well, I say to you, look, just be honest and ask for help. Be good to yourself. Be honest with yourself. Ask for help. We need help at that stage there. Put away the pride. Stop thinking, well, people will laugh at you or will laugh at us, and people will start talking behind our back, or they might cause us to lose our job or to lose our relationship. No. Ask for help, and we will get help. It's as simple as that. And pray, and also another thing as well is this. Don't look for any, don't be prepared, be patient. Don't look for instant fixes or quick fixes. There are no quick and instant fixes. But asking for help is the first step in humility. We have to get humble and ask for help.
Absolutely. I'm going to play a track of this CD here. Oops.
Depression. I said depression. When depression came, I didn't see. The past in my life had caught up with me. The violent abuse I suffered as a child. My uni education that had been denied. So many things I'd suppressed inside, with nowhere to run and nowhere to hide. In a pitch black tunnel with no light in sight, depression came like a thief in the night. Don't know if it came from the left or the right, but in denial I put up a fight, with coke and alcohol abuse to make things right. My appetite for business and money was gone. Life became devoid of fun. A good woman was needed, but I couldn't find none. My chances were 1,000,000,000,000. As suicidal thoughts came along, it took much more than just being strong against a thing so forceful, not so easy to overcome. Alcohol and cocaine, they were the enemy and not my friends. But way back then, I didn't comprehend, as they anesthetized the pain, anger and torment. To forget the years of betrayal from family and friends, and women who came for financial gain. Massive burglaries I suffered again and again, feeling like an outcast with 1,000,000 friends. Committing murder appeared to be justified after the way that I'd been crucified, but somehow God kept me off that path, because only God could abate my wrath. Because only God could abate my wrath. The absence of light. As I slipped into the darkness at the dawn, in boxes only by the riverbank, yet somehow I never jumped in. Although the voice that beckoned me from the water was enchantingly convincing. As trains came into the station, my back was glued to the wall, so I wouldn't fall or dive, thus keeping myself alive. I was hanging by a thread instead of a rope. My mortality clung to a glimmer of hope. I wasn't that innocent, having brutalized men and women for pride and money. Let God Almighty, myself, friends and family, and many members of society, remorse, resentment, regret, guilt, and shame, with feelings and emotions that have no name, that which I can never, ever explain. Accepting life on life's terms gave me the balance and gave me the peace I needed for the power of love to be released, as self-centeredness gradually became deceased. Cleansed with confession and forgiveness, I was no more a prisoner of the past. Now became the only place to be, with the future always looking bright. Now I know that darkness is always the absence of light. I repeat, now I know that darkness is always the absence of light.
Yes, my beautiful brother, music, Tamara. You know.
Yes,
Gabriel.
brother Dougie.
Yes, and the CD, man. Where people get the CD from?
Well, we can get the CD on most platforms, music platforms online. Yes, I know there's a few copies of the CD in the light shop as well
West Green
on
Road.
West Green Road. Yes,
Yeah.
well, I saw one copy in there yesterday. But,
Oh, so they sold out quite a few copies in there, yeah?
or maybe they might have moved somewhere else. I'm not, but I think they must have been sold
Oh,
basically.
fantastic.
Yeah.
So, say film stuff are move like hot cake. See? So, please, go online and get it from shop down in West Green Road, the light shop. For more information, we get the CD from. You can contact myself and Tamara. I'll give you my number as well, which is 0788-240-3871. I repeat, 0788-240-3871. And also, if anybody interested in terms of how we come together and doing workshops, we're talking about specifically in schools, university, college. If you've got contacts, please let us know, or into the workplace. We want to go in there. We want to go everywhere. Even mean coming to your home, right? Right? We want to go in there. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Just come out and let's work together.
Let's
Unity is strength. Let's demonstrate that. Let's put it into action. The talking, well, we do a lot of talking. Let's act now. Let's
act
do
now.
it.
Yeah. One thing I get to recognize, you was pointing out to us, the power or the benefit of yoga and meditation, because that's something you really advocate.
Oh, yes. Yoga and meditation is a great lifter of the mind and body, and a way to connect with the spirit, with the higher self, Absolutely, get balanced again and so on, and get in alignment, with the power and with the source of all life and love and light and healing. It's a beautiful thing, absolutely. But it requires a discipline to keep practicing it,
Absolutely. So, and there's tools we can use to get us out of this mess. I use the word mess, or depression or mental health. But you see, the thing is that we've got mental health because, there's mental health, there's physical health, there's spiritual health. You wouldn't be human, right, if you never cry, laugh, feel sad, feel down. There come times when you're naturally going to feel down. There come times where you lose your loved one or somebody you're close to, and yes, naturally you're going to feel a bit down, but the challenge is when you're in that state for weeks, months, even up to a year. People have been in states for years. That is a challenge. You do need tools, and it's not one particular tool. What might work for Tamara might not necessarily work for you. What might work for me necessarily work for you, and what work for you doesn't work for me. So you have to look through my holistic, And one of the things Tamara made it quite clear, one of the tools he uses is meditation and yoga.
Yes.
Also connect with the creator.
With the creator. And there are many tools indeed, but without honesty, these tools won't work. We have to be honest with ourselves. Some people talk about faking it to make it. Well, we've got to get honest. That's the true recovery here. Because we're hoping that by faking it, that suddenly we will get honest. And in some cases, it can work. I mean, I've heard of people who faked it, who said that they believed in God when they didn't believe in a God or a creator. They say, well, I believe in you, just give me a chance, help me, please. And they faked it. They even got down on their knees, although they didn't believe in doing all that stuff and so on. And they found that it worked. They found that it really worked, that just with a bit of humility, you know what I mean? So it takes very little effort from us to really get help from our creator.
Okay, I want to play a couple more tracks from this beautiful brother here. And another track. Where's that one there? The kind of jazzy track there. We love, What track is that one?
They'll have to pay. That's track 7.
Track 7, they have to pay.
Yes.
All right, we're going to drop that on them.
they'll have to pay. As the money grew and grew, philanthropy was part of it too. My house was open to all but a few. Protecting people, investing in others with something to do. Got real busy making music at Easy Street with star artists, creating songs, creating beats with live instruments that took you to the place that commences with the drum and bass, with rhythm and lead coming into play, keyboards and brass section with so much to say, as lead vocals and harmony led the way. Rico was phenomenal on the trombone. Angus from Aswad was extraordinary on drums. Huey Isachar, a bass superstar. Sugar Minot vocals really sweetened the place. The voices of the Heptones, Trevor Hartley and Winston Fergus flew at a melodious and passionate pace. I laid on the ganja, food and drinks, cabs to ferry artists from A to B, and paid them cash accordingly. In a thick marijuana mist, we produced reggae you couldn't resist, like Kind Man, Visions, and Oja, to name but a few. Suddenly, Engineer Eddie called me to the phone. Heard my girl Makita say my front door was chopped down that day. I stood silent with nothing to say. Kept cool and carried on recording till the session was done. Then went to the spot to witness my losses from jealous people, my trials and crosses. With their guile and greed, they never found the holy herb, the ganja breed, that was there in big supply, but it never caught their eye. Over $250,000 in sound equipment, vinyl, master tapes, and clothes were gone. That feeling in the gut didn't feel like fun. And as vengeful thoughts came my way, I heard the voice of God Almighty say, "Leave it to me, son. Put the posse and the gun and the knife away. You did no wrong, and they shall surely pay." Depression. I said depression. When depression came, I didn't see the past in my life had caught up with me. The violent abuse I suffered as a child, my uni education that had been denied, so many things I'd suppressed inside, with nowhere to run and nowhere to hide, in a pitch black tunnel with no light in sight. Depression came like a thief in the night. Don't know if it came from the left or the right, but in denial I put up a fight, with coke and alcohol abuse to make things right. My appetite for business and money was gone. Life became devoid of fun. A good woman was needed, but I couldn't find none. My chances were 1,000,000,000,000. As suicidal thoughts came along, it took much more than just being strong against a thing so forceful, not so easy to overcome.
Okay then. So what we like to leave the people? What the final word like to leave the people then, man?
Yes, we have to be honest with ourselves, ask for help, get real. And really and truly, it's the answer to, it doesn't matter even if you're not going through depression. You just ask for help. If something is too heavy, ask someone to help you lift it up. Instead of trying to lift it up by yourself and strain yourself and all them kind of thing there. Ask for help. We have to come together. You know that word love? Well, that's what love is all about. You know what I mean? Asking for help and receiving the help, you know? Yes, we have to practice the love and unity in our family and in our community, you know? And that will take over the world. So let's start practicing it.
Okay then. Well, at this point here, Tamara, let me shake your hand. This is your life, you know? It really is a pleasure to have you among us. And you really is a man with so much integrity, so much love, you know, and the Creator had a plan for you. He had a plan for you. And sometimes the Creator can turn us upside down, shake us around to see if you really have a job for you, you know. But he must see if you can really take on this job here. So he must have to test you and shake up another place. But no, he have a plan for you. And you, like I said before, I don't want to call it the Terminator because Terminator is not real, because with your powers, you could be the Terminator and even take on Rambo, right? But you are one of the man there who just have a focus, determination, and that will of love. You know, that word love coming all the time. See? And that's what Tamara is about, love and helping people to feel their true potential. So again, it's really a pleasure to have him among us.
Depression. When depression came, I didn't see. The past in my life had caught up with me. The violent abuse I suffered as a child. My uni education that had been denied. So many things I'd suppressed inside. With nowhere to run and nowhere to hide. In a pitch black tunnel with no light in sight. Depression came like a thief in the night. Don't know if it came from the left or the right. But in denial, I put up a fight. With coke and alcohol abuse to make things right. My appetite for business and money was gone. Life became devoid of fun. A good woman was needed, but I couldn't find none. My chances were 1,000,000,000,000 to 1. As suicidal thoughts came along, it took much more than just being strong against a thing so forceful, not so easy to overcome. Alcohol and cocaine, they were the enemy and not my friends. But way back then, I didn't comprehend, as they anesthetized the pain, anger and torment. To forget the years of betrayal from family and friends, and women who came for financial gain. Massive burglaries I suffered again and again, feeling like an outcast with 1,000,000 friends. Committing murder appeared to be justified after the way that I'd been crucified, but somehow God kept me off that path, because only God could abate my wrath. Because only God could abate my wrath. The absence of light. As I slipped into the darkness at the dawn, in boxes only, by the riverbank. Yet somehow, I never jumped in. Although the voice that beckoned me from the water was enchantingly convincing. As trains came into the station, my back was glued to the wall, so I wouldn't fall or dive, thus keeping myself alive. I was hanging by a thread instead of a rope. my mortality clung to a glimmer of hope. I wasn't that innocent, having brutalized men and women for pride and money, let down God Almighty, myself, friends and family, and many members of society. Remorse, resentment, regret, guilt, and shame were feelings and emotions that have no name, that which I can never, ever explain. Accepting life on life's terms gave me the balance and gave me the peace I needed for the power of love to be released, as self-centeredness gradually became deceased. Cleansed with confession and forgiveness, I was no more a prisoner of the past. Now became the only place to be, with the future always looking bright. Now I know that darkness is always the absence of light. I repeat, now I know that darkness is always the absence of light.
Excellent insert, and then we're going to continue the interview after this track. We'll be back. Family, can you reintroduce yourself for those who just joined us?
Yes, thank you, Brother Jammers. My name is Tamara Gabriel, Aka van de Peter Pierre, but Tamara Gabriel. And yes, and I'm the founder of From Rehab to Life Foundation and a singer, songwriter, poet, and author. And it's a pleasure to be here and to communion and communicate with all you beautiful people out there. Love, light, and healing to everybody by the grace of the Most High. Love.
Respect. And anybody wants to get hold of you or your music or get in contact with you, what is your contacts?
Yes, please contact me on 07960.
Turn slightly. We have a live camera feed, so you can just turn and look towards me,
Okay.
so we can catch
Yes,
your profiling. Yeah.
Can you please call me on 07960 976 920. Yeah. Okay. Right.
Yeah, we're just doing a live broadcast, so
Yeah.
so we're just gonna catch you for the
And
cameras.
also there's the website, which is from rehabtolife.com. And also there's another website. My website is also number 4, Tamara, Tamara, Gabriel, in small cases. 4, Tamara Gabriel 9 at gmail.com.
And can you spell Tamara for those as well?
Tamara. It's like Tamara, but you pronounce it as Tamra for the man and Tamara for the woman. It's an Amharic name.
Wow, great. So when did you realize you had a talent for writing and music?
Oh, from very early, from about, I'd say 3 years of age.
3 years of age? Wow.
Yes. I used to read and write like as though I was a 12-year-old boy or something.
From 3
when I
years?
was 3 years
Wow.
of age. Yes, I was. People were amazed, and I used to think, what are they amazed about? There's nothing to it, you know. You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
Wow. So what, did you sing at that age or?
No. Well, my grandma started to teach me singing from early on here, from that age.
Wow.
Yes, as well, and which led me to winning my first singing competition at the age of 7.
Okay, wow.
Yeah.
That was in the school, yeah?
Yeah, that was in the school, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
right. Wow.
Well, the school, which was part of the church, actually, you know, church and school.
Right,
all of
yes,
them were
linked,
one
yeah.
back in those days, yeah.
So what happened? Because you had this amazing talent soul age at that age. What happened? Was it stifled or was you too advanced for where you was? What happened?
Yes, it was stifled. It wasn't encouraged in my house, although although my father was a leader of a steel band himself. So and my mother, she was very much into acting and modeling. You know, she was in shows in the West End, you know, like in Hair, and you know, she used to. She was the first woman to appear, black woman to appear in a Bond movie.
Really?
Called, yes. In Her Majesty's Secret Service. You know, and all that sort of thing, and. Yeah. But they just didn't support my thing. But I got support from my grandma.
Right.
You know, she made me those white jeans with some red silk bits, you know, down at the bottom. You know what I mean? Flare them out a bit and made me some red silk shirts and orange silk shirts. You know what I mean? You know, with frills and things like that. You know what I mean? On the sleeves.
Showbiz already, ready for showbiz.
For real.
So she must have seen it in you already. You know?
Oh yes, yeah. My mommy was so supportive. My grandma. Without her, I'd have never known unconditional love. She taught me about unconditional love.
Right. So, so the lyrics for your album, it must have been inspired by the inspiration from what your life journey, was it?
Yes, it's my life's journey that's inspired the album. It's all coming from within, true experiences. You know, like when I asked God, what shall I do? God told me, well, use your talents, you know, because I fell down into a place which where most people die. You know, they go to the bitter end, to the grave from drug and alcohol addiction, but somehow I managed to rise up from it miraculously by the grace of the Most High, our Creator. There's no other power that could help me, you know, just yoga and meditation alone, and changing my diet and and changing my address and changing my friends and things like that. All that alone couldn't do it. I need the Most High Creator in there, because that is the true power, the true strength.
You know, I don't want anything less than the one that lights up the sun, you know what I mean, and causes the breeze to blow and all that, causes the earth to spin around. That's the power I need to be connected with in my recovery, nothing less.
And I think you got a big event happening in Pimlico taking place.
Oh, well, that event already took place. It was with
It already took place, yes?
Yes, the Ethiopian Orthodox Twahedo Church. Yeah, it was a big event, massive. It went down very well. Or should I say it went up very well. You know what I mean? Instead of going down, it went up, man. Went right up to heavens. You know, there was a great lecture and, you know, just to enlighten people where the church comes from so they know their history and the culture of the church. And do you know that it's the only Christian place on earth that no bloodshed was spilled there when they embraced Christianity? Everywhere else where Christianity went to in the world, bloodshed. They became Christian through bloodshed. But in Ethiopia, no. And that was enacted by a play which he did with Prince, the Apostle Philip, when he met the eunuch, the Ethiopian eunuch, on the road to Gaza, you know, and the eunuch was the finance minister for the Queen Candace, who was the Queen of Ethiopia at the time. And he was reading from the Old Testament and about from Isaiah, who he came as a lamb to the slaughter, and you know, and he didn't open his mouth and all that. And he said, well, who is this? And so Philip explained to him, and he says, well, look, there's water there, baptize me. I believe in the Son of God and all that sort of thing. And because this was only just days after the Christ, you know, Yahshua Meshach had left the apostles behind and gone to heaven. And so basically, yes, and he said, well, look, there's water there, baptizement. So he was baptized, and he introduced Queen Candace to what he learned, you know, to Christianity. And she embraced it also, and so therefore all of Ethiopia became Christian without no bloodshed whatsoever.
Wow.
And also showing us that also it was the original Christian place on earth, not Rome or Greece, like some people would have us think.
Right.
That's where it was.
Right, great. So, you had a chance to go abroad?
To Ethiopia, not yet, but the chance is coming up. I've made plans to go there with another brother, Hapti. You know, if you're listening, Hapti, brother, I'm looking forward to that. I was thinking about the trip over there. I haven't been abroad for years.
Wow.
I've just been focused on making music and writing songs and poetry and writing my book, the autobiography, and working with charity and doing a lot of voluntary work. And by the grace of the Most, I'm really ready to travel now.
Well, tell us some of the voluntary work that you do.
Oh, well, going back in the years, voluntary work, I went into a lot of prisons. I went into Brixton.
Oh, right, wow.
Pentonville, Wormwood Scrubs, Wandsworth Prison, even Holloway Road, the women's prison.
Right.
Belmarsh and Feltham
Been
Young
in all
Boys
those prisons, wow.
And Feltham Young Boys Institution as well, you know, on drug and alcohol addiction. I went in there, and also I'd also be combined with violence and crime as well, because I also come from a criminal and a violent and dishonest background as well for these sort of activities. So that's all mixed with drug and alcohol addiction. As you know, that drives a lot of people who wasn't violent and dishonest to become violent and dishonest to keep the habit going.
Right.
You know?
So what does it do to you then, so for those who don't know, like the hard drugs? What does it do?
Well, the hard drugs, first of all, it separates us from our higher power. It separates us from God Almighty, the Creator, our true self, our true being. Separates us from
So what does it do to the mind
and
then?
also it separates us from truth, from reality.
Right.
You know what I mean? From truth, from the truth. And also it separates us from ourselves, and it separates us from our families, our loved ones. You know, it separates us from our jobs. It separates us from all our different relations, even the ones with our cats and dogs. You know, you leave them without food for days because you're drinking and drugged up and all that.
So what comfort does it apparently give then? Why people do it then?
Well, it's a form of escape, you know. You don't want to. You don't want
escape,
to.
right?
Yeah, you got all these thoughts keep going around in your head. Oh, they did me this. Oh, they did me that. Oh, I went through this. I keep going through that. Why does this keep happening to me? Oh, they don't love me. Or they, oh, this and that. Or I must be stupid. Or why, you know, why can't I get myself together? All these all sorts of nonsense goes through your head. What are people thinking about me? What are they saying about me? You know, they know what the situation I'm in, and really they don't know if you don't tell them. You know what I'm saying? But you expect people to help you, but you're not telling them, you know, without telling them what kind of help you need, what you're going through. And when you got these things going around, and this world is a wicked place, you can't trust anybody. Everybody's a liar. Everybody only want to know if you got money, or you know, and all that sort of thing, or you got something that they want. If you haven't got anything that they don't want, you know, if you haven't got anything they want, then they don't want to talk to you. You know, it's a wicked world. You know, people just walking past you. You know, your neighbor don't talk to you, you know, and you don't even know their name. And, you know, you start looking at the world, and the world just look dark. And especially nowadays with all the murders going on, and paranoia and fear just rises even higher. And people run to drugs and alcohol to escape, to forget about the past, maybe abuse of the past, things that just keep coming up in it so fresh, like as though it just happened now, and things like that.
So it's like a mental suicide kind of thing.
Yes, it's a mental prison of pain and torture. You know, you just you know, keep reliving and you know, replaying all that stuff, and so the drugs and all that is a way of kind of getting in the way of it, you know what I mean? So you know, sort of keeping it away, you know what I'm saying? So the blocking it out.
So what do you say for the youth then now? What do you think is the answers for the current situation that we have now?
Yes,
it's a deep one, and that's a big one.
Yes. Well, the youths of today, you know, it's the same thing for us all. You know, the young youths of today, you have to start loving yourselves. You know, my sons and you know, my little brothers. You know, and so my little cousins, my little family out there. You all have to start loving yourselves. You know, stop hating yourself, because for me to really murder my brother, you know, it's coming from a place of self-hate. You know, I may justify it as being, well, they did this or they did that. Well, so what? Because a man ripped you off £1,000 or £5,000, is that justified for you to go and murder him? No, it's not. You know, it's not. We have to be honest with ourselves. You know, young ones out there, young men, you know, young princes. You know, if you want to be a king, let's start getting honest with each other.
Right.
You know?
What do you say the self-hate is? What is that then?
Well, the self-hate
where does it come from?
The self-hate is coming, you know, it goes back. It's very deeply embedded in our DNA from slavery, when going back to those days when black was looked on as ugly and repulsive and you know, and no good, you know, like everything black was the worst, you know, was the dregs of society. And so who'd want to be black? You know what I mean? You know, boy, you know, look, the white people having a lovely time. So you know, so we turned up to hating ourselves. We thought by straightening our hair we'd become more acceptable. We think by lightening our skin we'd become more acceptable. We even think maybe by straightening our noses a bit we'd become more respectable. Or thinning down our lips and all that kind of nonsense.
Could you give us a little verse that relates to that now? I'm just going to just a cappella verse. I didn't put you on the spot. Can you just give us a little anything that comes to mind?
Well, what comes to mind?
Live exclusive variety. I'll put him on the spot tomorrow.
Yes, I was trying to think of something I've already written, you know, but you know, something coming up on the spot there on that subject. You know, they always said to be black was to go back, you know, and to go back meant to go back to where it's black. And yet, when I looked within, all I could see was the light. And I said, oh God, help me, Don't let me go back into the dark. Please keep me in the light. Please help me to keep up the fight. Please help me to do what is right so the right thing happens.
Fantastic. Yeah, once again, where can people get hold of this track now?
Well, I just made it up.
Oh, you just made that what?
Yeah, I just made that.
You just made that up?
Yes,
wow.
I just made that line up.
You just made that up?
Yeah,
Wow.
I just made that
Jeez.
up. But say something from the album would be
That's
like,
heavy.
as I slipped into the darkness at the dawn, in boxes only, by the riverbank, yet somehow I never jumped in. Although the voice that beckoned me from the water was enchantingly convincing. As trains came into the station, my back was glued to the wall, so I wouldn't fall or dive, thus keeping myself alive. I was hanging by a thread instead of a rope. My mortality clung to a glimmer of hope. I wasn't that innocent, having brutalized men and women for pride and money, let down God Almighty, myself, friends and family, and many members of society. Remorse, resentment, regret, guilt, and shame, with feelings and emotions that have no name, that which I could never, ever explain. Accepting life on life's terms gave me the balance and gave me the peace I needed for the power of love to be released, while self-centeredness gradually became deceased. Strengthened and cleansed with love and confession and forgiveness, I was no more a prisoner of the past. Now became the only place to be, with the future always looking bright. Now I know the darkness is always the absence of light. I repeat, now I know the darkness is always the absence of light.
Fantastic, excellent, yeah.
Yes, and that's from the album Ex-Gangsters Odyssey.
What track's that one?
That's track 9. That's the last track on the album, actually.
Wow, fantastic, yeah. Once again, where can people get this album from?
They can get the album online on most of the platforms, music platforms. Yeah, so they can get it via CD in the Light Shop on West Green Road, Tottenham.
Right, fantastic. That's excellent, you know. So what would you say yourself? Can you sound like poet, spoken word?
Oh yes, definitely poet, spoken word. You know, that's how I got into the music business, to start singing professionally.
Oh, wow.
I was in class in school and we was reading a poem. It was called The Queen of Hearts. And then the teacher said, who can turn this poem into a song after we recited it? And I put up my hand. I was the only one in the class who put my hand up.
Wow.
And he said, well, go on, sing it then. So I stood up with book in hand, and instead of reading it or reciting it, I sang it.
Wow.
The Queen of Hearts, she's the ace of sorrow. She's here today and gone tomorrow. Young women are plenty and sweethearts few. If my love leaves me, what shall I do? When my love comes in, I gaze not around. When my love goes out, I'm wearing a frown. For to meet is pleasure, to part is sorrow. She's here today and gone tomorrow.
Fantastic.
And I said, wow.
Yeah.
And next day, I was approached by the 16, 17-year-olds in school because I was 12 myself.
Right, yeah.
And they said, look, listen, we want you to join our band. Come and rehearse with us on Sunday
Wow.
in St. Jude's Church Hall. And that's how it started in Blurton Road in Clapton.
Yeah, wow. Wow, that's fantastic. So,
Yes, brother.
and I know you got like a command of the English language. Where does that come from?
Well, that just comes from I have a command of the English language because I'm gifted with. I'm just gifted with English language.
Right.
You know, I write. I just find myself being able to write stuff like I said from the age of 3, and so
Well, it just comes to you, is
and
it?
to read and write, and to also to speak it as well.
Right.
You know,
You have that projection
I
with
have
your
that,
voice.
I have that way
natural,
of,
yeah.
Yeah, it just comes to me.
So
naturally.
does it just come to you naturally, the writing?
Naturally, yeah.
The lyrics and yeah?
And also my mother, she spoke English like perfect English, you want to call it, you know.
Right.
Some people used to say that she was like uptown girl or, you know, and all that kind. She spoke like this Oxford kind of, oh, Vanda, you know, and all that. I think she was the only one in Hackney who spoke like. It used to embarrass me sometimes, you know, as a child, you know what I mean? Because I wanted my mother to be like, you know, everyone else's mom, you know what I'm saying?
Well, that's come to your benefit now. It's give you that distinctive sound. Yeah.
Yes, it does.
So what's the future hold for you now? What's your next moves?
Well, my next move right now is actually, you know, we're just looking for some trustees for the charity From Rehab to Life Foundation. So anybody out there who's interested in working, you know, as a trustee the charity with the charity, have a meeting once a month, and you know, whatever you could contribute, you know, a few hours a week, you know, whatever, just to support the charity in any way you think you can help us go forward. Please get in touch with us on the 07960 976 920. Also, at the moment, I'm sorting out some royalties with some music that I've done, because there's some people out there who've sort of got their names down on some of my tracks, claiming 100%. You know, for some of my songs and all that, 80%, 50%. You know, so I've got to sort all that kind of crap out as well, you know, and so on and so forth. So I'm sort of, yes. So that's taking up my time at the moment.
Right, so we're going to play one more track and then we'll be back with the great Tamara after this one. I think this is appropriate.
You sheltered me from harm, kept me warm, kept me warm. You gave my life to me, set me free, set me free. The finest years I ever knew is all the years I had with you, and I would give anything I own, give up my life, my heart, my own, and I would give anything I own just to have you back again. Is there someone you know that won't let you go, and taking it all for granted? You may lose them one day, someone takes them away, and you don't hear a word they say. And I would give anything I own, give up my life, my heart, my own, and I would give anything I own just to have you back again, just to talk to you words again. If there's someone you know to have you back again, just to talk to you words again, just to hold you once again.
That been right here, bless. And we've got another guest in the room. And he's going to take the seat. And we're going to get a guest to interview a guest. I think this is going to be a world first. And then I'll come in after the next one. Before we go, yes, we got another guest who's going to come in. Yes, you can come and sit down and introduce yourself. We've got guests just turning up here, you know. They're just turning up, you know. Free invitation right here. So just gonna introduce yourself, sir.
Yes, it's Astehmari.
Yes.
Abundant Centers.
Abundance
Centers.
Abundant sentence.
Centers. Or more people will know us as Black Open University.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Black Open University.
Black
Fantastic.
Open University.
How long has that been? The project been going?
The Abundant Center, which is part of this, is since 2012.
Since 2012,
2012, but we're based at the Chestnut Centre in Tottenham, and we're doing some big things there.
Great.
And share it with the community, you know.
That's fantastic. Where did the idea come from to do a university? That's kind of a big idea, that is. Yeah.
You're right. It is a big idea. Well, the background is in teaching cultural arts in a special way. We call it unified knowledge, and the unified knowledge is about using African cultural arts to teach math and science, to make the math and science learning for the children, for adults, better. We have a course that we do for parents and for teachers to teach the method of the teaching. That's a pedagogy course, unified knowledge.
Wow.
So we're setting a high level, so we call it university for this.
Yeah, I really like that.
Yeah. And inside of that, there's full-time things, full-time provision for children. Those families who know that their children are getting crushed in the system,
right,
and they want their children out, and they're doing home education, or they want to find a better way. We're making some models for this.
Right, fantastic. I think my guest has got some questions he'd like to ask you, so I'm going to let him take this chair and fire away some questions. Can you give us your name once again for those who just knows? Astehmari. Black Open University.
Black Open University.
Tamara's going to come in and ask you some questions on that as well.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yes, brother, Astehmari, is it?
Astehmari.
Yes, Astehmari. Blessed love and greetings,
love.
brother. By the grace of the Most High, it's an honor and pleasure to be in your presence.
Likewise, reflection.
And what age do you start teaching the children?
I love that question, you know. From pre-birth. It's a family learning. So our learning and our idea is that from pre-birth, parents can do things that are going to set the ground for their seed and for their children. So it's from pre-birth, toddlers, early years learning, teenagers, into adulthood.
That's beautiful.
Entry into adulthood.
That's beautiful. You know, something remind me of something the other day. My son's lady, she's expecting a baby, and she sent me a text, and I'm sort of aware that while the baby's in the womb, that's the time to start working on, teaching the baby stuff or behaving in certain ways to influence the baby in a positive way by behaving positively, right?
Absolutely.
Don't get angry. Don't, get all, don't get yourself in stressed out and things like that. Just love yourself and, be at peace and, that sort of thing,
There is that is, we have to say that because today many people are just not at basic peace. So we have to even think about that just to say, let's be more peaceful at this time.
Yes.
But under normal, ideal circumstance, we would just be that way.
Yes.
Just standard. So what I'm talking about is doing special things at that time. For example, we use drumming. We use African drumming, but there's a special way we do it where you teach number ideas and science ideas through the rhythms. So a child can learn things through the patterns in the rhythms that when they come forward in another cycle, they're going to realize, oh, the rhythm and certain rhythms will be good for them. And the learning sits with the rhythm.
Right.
Yeah, and that can go into very deep ideas of math and science.
Maths and science. Yes. So, in other words, it's a form of communication. The drums here, you're talking about communication, and
original
and the so the drumming principles that you have and the drumming action that you have actually it's something that's been passed down for how long ago would you say?
It's an ancient form. It's an ancient form. Drumming rhythm, particularly drumming, is something that sat with African culture from the beginning.
Yes, indeed.
And it's a universal principle.
Absolutely.
Rhythm, drum, universal like heartbeat is drum.
Yes,
like
yes.
It's like drums in the ear, like trod in the road, like this. But there's things you can do with it. See, we're going to standard system schooling mostly. We send our ones to this. But there's things we can do that would give us a higher learning of the ideas that we send them somewhere else to learn.
Right.
And they can come into our normal movement, our daily work, our daily actions.
So
embrace them things.
Let me get this right here now. From what I'm hearing here, if I'm understanding you correctly, is that by a baby listening to the drum beat and the drumming messages from the womb, when they are born into this world, it equips them with the power, so to speak, to handle the worldly things in a far more superior way.
It's true, but you know what? When you say it like that, it is wonderful, but it is wonderful and it is this. But I know some people may think it's a bit mysterious. I'm not talking in a mysterious way.
No,
I'm talking a practicality. For example,
absolutely.
To share with a child, an unborn child, certain ways of counting, ways of counting by rhythm.
Right.
Yeah, this is something. If a child experiences that from their guardian, their mother, father, family around them, who are making rhythms that have a meaning in them, and when you convey a rhythm that has a meaning, and you're feeling the emotion of the meaning, then you convey it to the child. They don't have to hear you explain it. They have to feel the emotion and the idea as you do the rhythm. Then it has meaning. It's clear language for this.
So we're talking
this kind of thing.
So we're talking about feelings here. I mean, getting in touch with your feelings as well here.
Absolutely.
Serious thing.
It's feeling, and because sometimes feeling can be tricked. It's a higher consciousness. And more than even the drumming, I would say we have part of our language. The drumming is part of language in the Black Open University. So we have another aspect, which is a sign language. So a person with child if they learn certain sign language, which is gestures with your hands, so you may think the baby can't see that, but some cultures, they know if you put your hand in a certain posture, then that's a form. There's a certain bodily energy that goes with being in certain postures.
Yes.
So from your putting yourself in certain postures, hand signs, and other bigger postures, the baby will know these things. This is language. This is language. Then you add to that your voice now. Not just the words, but certain tones and expressions like this. This is why I can start at the beginning of pre-birth.
Yes, pre-birth.
If a one is ready to even preconception, you want to take it to another place.
Yes.
We should think like this. We should think like this.
Absolutely. It begins before we're born into this world.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. And I guess we could go into before you even plan to make love to have a baby, that you have to be prepared in a certain way yourself, so you get the best results, you get the best seeds sowed, in order to absolutely to plant the best trees.
We should talk like this, of course.
Absolutely, brother.
When do we? Some young people will be listening to this, and they may never have heard of such a thing.
Yes.
But if you and I, we can know, this is a real talk.
Absolutely.
Ancient wisdom.
So we spoke of the drum. Is there any other instrument that you use apart from the drum?
Well, the drum is the main one, but we're working with all other kinds of instrument that ones would bring into a space. The drum is the core one. The
Absolutely.
Drum, in our cultural arts, we have a new class, which is why I wanted to come today to promote some of the new classes. These programs, by the way, they're in the new prospectus, which is on blackopenuniversity.eu. blackopenuniversity.eu. But one of the courses is a warrior dance class. So the drumming complements a martial arts warrior dance class, where then you're learning more about full body movement, martial arts, breathing, stances, and how that plays with rhythm, drama, expression, this kind of thing. And that thing comes back again to the cycle of early years. Because if a parent is able to free themselves in expression, then this will free up the way for their seed.
Absolutely.
Often I'm in education, and I know that many times a child's challenges are sitting with the parents' challenges, and that they inherit them. It's very common for this.
Yes, it's like the apple never falls far from the tree, so to speak. Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
What about we've got the drumming. About singing, then, is that part of do you sing with the drumming as well?
Yeah, definitely. We have some rhythms, which is language, and in the language there's some particular breathing. There's one song. This is I came here today to invite ones to an event. We have a party called Dark and Wild Party. It's a Dark and Wild gathering on the 20th of July at the Chestnut Community Centre, 7 o'clock starts. And in that, you'll hear some of these songs where you're playing the drum. And for example, we have a rhythm called Om-E, the Om-E rhythm. Yeah. And on the drum, we're drumming the words Om and E, and then we're singing Om and E. And the sound of the Om and the E is a breathing exercise. I mean, people hear the Om, they Om.
Yes.
A resonance. They got a resonance for the Om.
Oh, yes.
People know this for peace.
Yeah.
But there's another sound, E, another resonance for determination. So we have a. I don't put them so much into the singing, although singing. I put it more into the breathing, like this. It's a breathing exercise, but it's a song. It's lovely. People love it. When we enter a thing like this, people don't want to stop for this.
Yes, and the breath is life, no doubt.
Absolutely.
So how did you
cultivate that?
How did you get to that place? 'Cause you appear to be a very young man. I know, in your 20s or whatever, or early 30s or whatever.
You're very kind.
Really?
Really,
Okay.
really, you're
Well,
very
you've
kind.
kept well. You've
You're-
maintained yourself
you're
well.
very kind.
Would you
You're
put
very
that down to what you've learned about life and so on? The drumming and so on has kept you young, and
Without a doubt.
and you're changing
without
your
a doubt.
thinking and your, yes.
Without,
without
I
a
won't. I
doubt.
won't say I've escaped all challenges like this, but definitely to keep not only active, physically active in like a sporting type of way, a
Yeah.
dance type of way, but to do it with knowledge that the movement and the breathing and the stances are really yogic forms. You know, as some people go to yoga because they want to empower themselves.
Yes, yes,
we should go
indeed.
to the dance for yoga. But from what I can see, last time I see a dance, people are not moving freely again. But that's our tradition, is to move freely. And then there's health inside of the free movement.
Absolutely.
Then the health is to remove any blockages.
Yes.
That's where the illness will come from. So if you're moving the blockage,
Yes.
then you got more chance to keep
Healthy.
that is it.
Yes.
It's not a guarantee, but still,
Absolutely. We got a good start there.
we've got to do these things.
Yes,
We shouldn't neglect ourselves for this.
Absolutely. So where's your school at the moment?
Well, the Chestnut Community Centre is
Yes.
where our main practice centre is. There's another centre in South London which is emerging, so I'll probably say a little less about that. But Clapham North, there's a centre there, and we're likely to be very fully based in this space with programs
Right.
there as well.
And how long have you been going on with the school, with the university? Beg your pardon.
Well, these things come through a thing. One thing comes into a new thing. So let me say that I graduated into teaching these kind of cultural arts in 1996. So that is the beginning for me for teaching these kind of things. And there's different iterations. Some people may know schools of unified learning, which is part of the roots for this practice of unified knowledge, of Dankira Tawagi, warrior dance. Yeah. And let me give thanks to where I learned these things. Ones may know the Kazimba and Goma Academy. I'm a graduate through this, and you know the teachers for that, fantastic people.
And where would other people find the academy if they wanted to start learning from there, as you did?
Well, that's a good question. I think the best way for me to invite ones to learn as I have learned, and the best that I have learned, is to come to the Black Open University.
Yes, come to you. Yeah, I thought you'd say that. That's good.
That is the best way I can put it forward. Really.
Absolutely. I agree with that, actually.
The founding teachers, the ones that I have the high respect for, Malimu Hamza Mohammed, Dr. Ekwiana Chatwa, these ones are fantastic teachers, highly blessed, grand teachers. So anyone who knows them knows that.
Is it costly? Is it financially, to go to the classes?
There's a cost.
Yes.
There's a cost. The cost is in the prospectus. We do things in a quarterly cycle, so we're not attached into the standard system of the schooling for this. We just have every 3 months is a new cycle, which is then we're connecting to the season, and there's a cost for the quarter.
Okay.
Like
and
there's in terms of the warrior dance class is a new class. It's a class that I've taught before for a long time, but I've had some time where we have not taught it in this place. So we're relaunching the course here in Tottenham at the Chestnut Centre. That's for adults this time. But there's another class which we call Level Being 9 for children. There's a full-time classing for them, for those families who want to do full-time learning. And there's an after-school type of class. So the after-school type of class on a Monday and a Tuesday, 4:15 to 5:45. This is a very eased costing for this.
Right. It sounds like a family class. You do parents and children together, that sort of thing?
Not in this one. We have done in the past with younger children and their parents. It is a family thing, but I'll tell you how the parents come into this. We have a course which is a pedagogy course, which means pedagogy is the method of the teaching. So we have a unified knowledge pedagogy course on a Monday evening from 6:30 to 8:30 in Tottenham. And that class is for the parents of the children who come to the other classes, or for other parents who are just interested, or for people in education. Who
At
want
the Chestnut
different
Centre.
At the Chestnut Centre.
Right.
That's right. And that is our model for our, you call it school, I call it a learner cooperative. I call it more this than say school. But our model for that is a parents-led learner cooperative. So we're encouraging the parents to overview how things are done, how to engage in a unified way with the learning, how to engage the system, if you still got your children in a standard system, and you must not, I've done research for this. I know the damage. Like everyone knows the damage, but
Yes.
I know the damage statistically and, you know, behind the scenes, the numbers for this. So if ones know the damage and want to come out of it, you have to have a way to tackle that.
Absolutely.
So it's not something, most of our families, we act as if we're alone when we're trying to tackle the issues that certain institutions will throw down, as we ourselves throw down. We ourselves are bringing up issues, and then those issues, others engage with us on those things. It's hard. So we have to have basically I'm saying we have to have an organization way to handle these things, and that means you have to learn that.
So in other words, as a family, a mother and father would like their child to get into higher education, because you're talking about a higher form of education here.
That's right.
And but they'd like to get them out of the contemporary school, and what you're saying is that you can advise them on how to do that without any repercussions on them from the government or
That's
anything
right.
like that.
I can advise on how it can be done so that the family takes full responsibility. They're connected into a network that's taking responsibility for the learning programs, and so they have clarity about what's happening. And any other agency that would want to have a look at that, if they have the power to come in and have a look at something, they will see what is clear and good for everyone to know about.
And up to what age do you teach?
Well, for me, the program is entry to adulthood. But
Right.
the particular one that, again, there's several things I wanted to talk about. blackopenuniversity.eu is the prospectus is there. But there's a program called Level Being 9. And the Level Being 9 is about teaching. Level 9, first of all, is a standard in the GCSE classes in the school. Level 9 is the highest standard. They changed it from the A, the A letter graded things like this. They changed it from that to numbers. So 1 is the lowest and 9 is the highest. And level 9 is like beyond A star. Right.
Okay.
So the issue is most of our children in standard system schools, they entered into foundation tier work, which means they can only score up to 5. From 1 to 5. They can't get the 6, the 7, the 8, the 9. So that means they can never get the level 9. Now, in the world of anything high quality, in terms of business, enterprise, investment, people will be looking for the level 9 candidates.
Indeed.
And so that's segregation of people. And unfortunately, most of our community don't see that trap till it's way too late, till we're at the end of the school. They're just sitting their exams at foundation level, and if you're made to go through school feeling that basically you're a second class learner, and you're in a class, and maybe if it's a 30 student class, maybe 5 of them are doing the high tier work, and the teacher will always be saying, oh, for you do this and this, which is the interesting advanced thing, and the rest of you plebs, you do the rest of this thing. That's the journey into poor performance.
Yes.
Why should we put our children into this?
Absolutely. I mean, a lot of parents will be wondering, well, will my child get certificates at the end of their courses and so forth, things like that?
Absolutely. So the program, the Level Being 9, our Level Being 9 program, it's focused around the GCSE math, mathematics, and inside of that, we're teaching the mathematics in a cross-curricular way. So we're teaching it connected to all the science and language and other ideas, but the focal point is the math. Then in doing that, our promise to the parent and the child is that they can do it in a very short time at a younger age to a higher standard.
Yes.
Those 3 things, I'll repeat that because that's something to think about. If a person's in a position where they can think about it, then if you, for example, you have a child who's 8 years old, the child, our promise is that we can have that child have the consciousness and competence for the GCSE at the higher tier in a shorter time. So they can, within 2 to 3 years, they would be ready to have the competence, which would be before they would normally get it in a standard school. So they'd have the competence at that level. They'd be younger. like this. This is something to think about. Now, our way to do that is by engaging the parents around it. So we are wrapping around the child's learning experience. And we're not letting things pass. Normally what happens in a school or in learning is that the child goes to school, they do some stuff, they come back, you say, well, what did you do? And they say, oh, nothing much. And most parents don't get past that.
That's right.
And a few parents who drill down into it, they may have a good relationship, so they do some learning together. But I would say still, even at the best, 70% of what the child's really learnt, experience learnt, they're not seeing it. Whereas if you wrap around it in the pedagogy, in our pedagogy class, we have classes in the afternoon, evening, or in the daytime. Pedagogy is the method of teaching. That's a language. That is a language for the system of teaching. No, it's blessed. It's blessed. Yeah, we're miking up Free the Hard Way. I love that.
Free the hard way. Yes. I've got a thing about words. If I hear a word and I don't know, I need to know.
No problem. Pedagogy is it's English word. It's old English word for the system
I think you're going to have to be hired as a presenter now. I'll just let you know now. You can't leave without signing contract.
Thank you very much. I need a job and I need the money.
Yes, sorry again, sir.
Yeah. So the pedagogy. I'm glad you asked about that word because most people don't know it. I use the word and I know most people don't know it. But you see, it's a word that a teacher would know and a school will know. And when you send your child to a school, all the teachers in the school will have gone through a teacher training.
Right.
And part of the teacher training will be about the pedagogy, the method of the teaching, the systems of how they think learning works or how their idea of how it's going to work out. So we have our own pedagogy, which we teach the parents and teachers. And if you learn it, not only will you learn this, which is an African-centered pedagogy, and nature, family-centered pedagogy approach to learning, not only will you learn that, but then you're able to see the standard system. And this is something we don't see the institutions that we're putting our ones into. We can't analyze the structure. So only if you study structures, then you say, oh, this is a structure, and that's what that structure is.
Right.
Then you can see how it's working, and then we're in a healthier position.
Right, okay.
So it's important on several levels, that pedagogy class.
Right. But what does pedagogy mean?
System of teaching.
System of teaching.
System of teaching. It's the system of teaching. The system, your value of how teaching works, how learning works, your approaches to this.
Right. And what background have you got into like the level that you're teaching at yourself?
Okay. So
or your people around you, not just have to be.
Well, we have teachers, qualified teachers in our schooling. So some of the people around the classes are qualified teachers through standard system teaching.
Yes.
My background is through teaching these cultural arts and integrating them into math. In research, my background is with a company called People Science. Some may see the reports for this, where we've produced statistical research reports for demographics of our communities and other communities. And education, analyzing education.
Right.
The most recent report that we did is called Flaws in Attainment 8, which is an analysis of the Haringey performance, how they monitor performance in schools. They have a mechanism they call Attainment 8 and Progress 8. We've analyzed it, and I led for this because my background has given me the skill to do that.
Right.
I've analyzed the data from Haringey by ethnicity to show the issues, and the issues are that black boys are in the crack. Now, we in this room, we know that. Many people listening, they know that, but we have to know it statistically and in a way to force institutions to not let it keep happening.
Yes. Sorry to stop. You got any more of yours? You got a CD here? One of your CDs here?
Yes.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind playing one of the tracks. It relates to what you're talking about. Sorry about that.
Yeah, no problem. So, I would identify myself in this regard as a cultural arts teacher, and my pedagogy is unified knowledge. So I'm a unified knowledge teacher, which gives me the ability to teach advanced math and science ideas in a unified way.
Right.
And when I'm saying advanced, let me put it like this. I'm not saying to you that your child needs to know sort of astrophysics to be doing advanced physics. Right. But what they need to know, what we need to know regarding the math and the science, is the root principles in an advanced way. And we don't get that in a standard school. You don't get the root ideas taught to the children, let alone to the parents. So the advancedness is in the way of holding the root ideas behind the subjects and holding them in a way that works for our communities where we're coming from culturally, respecting our cultures. Standard schooling, because it's the culture of the standard system is European, of course. We're in Europe, well, just about. We're still in Europe. So that's okay. Only that if it's going to ignore other people, like you see some arguments are coming up, and it's arguments about immigration and foreigners and this and that, those kind of talks are coming up, where man and man who've been here for a long time are just getting looked like foreigners anyway. That idea of devaluing the other, devaluing the culture, this is a problem. We can't have our heritage devalued. You can't send your child into a space to learn where their heritage is devalued, and specifically a next set of heritage is uplifted, so that they must, to get to the root idea, they must go through some iconic cultural characters from a next place to get to the root idea.
I just want to bring Tamara in, because you experience the prison system. And in that system, can you hold on to your cultural values in there?
You can hold on to some cultural values, and in fact, some guys actually connect with their cultural values from in prison. You know, they go in prison and they probably used to have what do you call it, permed hair and all that, and then they end up getting the hair plait instead, and you know what I mean, and things like that. So and they start reading a few books because they're isolated. And next thing you know, a few black history books and stuff like that, or a few black guys who are politically were motivated and you know, in the struggle and so on. And next thing you know, they come out of prison, sort of a bit more, how could I say, educated.
So it's like that, in them extreme circumstances, that's when you start to learn about your culture.
Yes, when your back's against the wall or when you're in your rock bottom, yes.
And what happens to the young mind that goes into this environment, like maybe the younger ages, like the 16-year-olds? What happens to them?
Well, the young man, the last time I visited a young man in prison, his report to me was that, there's a lot of young men in here committing suicide every week, he said. And these young men, they're not, we need to introduce them to their culture, even in the prisons as well, because I think that sort of that part of it appears to have died down a bit, whereas when I went to prison as a young man, you could find lots of books in there and there was a lot of interest buzzing around, but I don't think it's encouraged anymore, like going to the prison library. I think guys are more into just, listening to beats on their on their mobile phone or whatever they've got.
And I done some work as well in the Ealing, in a criminal hospital, young criminal hospital. And that's another thing, is the music, the influence of the music. These musicians don't realise what the damage that they're doing to the mind, because that's their only salvation, is hearing this music. So it's refreshing to hear what you're saying, that you're looking in before that situation occurs. You're doing research and doing the statistics to enlighten how our young minds need to be nurtured, in the schooling system.
This thing about the prisons is connected, because I don't know if you know ones like Cheryl Phoenix doing fantastic work along what she and others term as the school to prison pipeline. So there is a road, and we're in an area where there's been recent what they say, a rise in knife crime and youth crime. That's what they say, like this. And when those things are analysed, like the backgrounds of the ones that get caught doing it, the victims of it, typically, often, if they're not completely innocent or random, they're in a certain experience with school life. So there's a kind of path. Essentially, that's the prison school to prison pipeline. Now, we should question that. We should also define culture, because we're saying they get culture in the prison, but culture, I define culture on a simple level, patterns of growth and ways of being. I define it so we can talk about it certain practical ways. So when they get there, they've got culture. They had a culture that meant, for example, if they wanted to make up big money, they didn't have a social structure, family structure. The culture wasn't there to make them think another way to make the big money, to pool together with their brethren and sisterin in a certain way to do business, to explore business, enterprise.
Right.
So the culture wasn't there for that. It was a different culture that they had to say, oh, we need the money and this is the way we're going to do it. Maybe we grew around this. We're in an area. So the pattern of growth around here means we do it this way.
Right.
It's culture. They have culture before they go to prison. They may change the culture. But, you know, I find that, and the system likes this. When one's come out of a prison space, and then the system will put them in front of some panels and have them talking to the community and giving the example of the danger of that road. But then that path, that pipeline, we're supposed to stop the pipeline. We're supposed to stop the pipeline. In some countries, they have real pipeline with oil in it. And, you know, in Nigeria and places like this, and when the pipeline break or people break the pipeline, they're trying to siphon it off. We're supposed to check this pipeline and check it not in secondary school, not even in primary school. We're supposed to check it pre-birth.
Yeah.
So we're not feeding into something like this where our children can end up systematically in prison type situations. Prison is an extreme idea, but there's other kinds of prison. There's other kinds of entrapment. Mental imprisonment is to be incarcerated in the mind, in your freedom of expression. Some people are incarcerated, they're living freely on the road, but they don't think they can leave this area to go to that area. That's prison. That's curfew. It's curfew.
So I just want to, so Tamara, is that what you experienced? Is like, it was first the imprisonment of the mind? That's
Yes, imprisonment of the mind, and that leads to depression, actually.
Absolutely.
And all the mental illnesses as well. Absolutely.
So so back to now what you do in your school. So you say you did how do you say that again? Pedagogy. So you give the parents an understanding of the system.
Yeah.
And then
we give the parents and families
and
teachers and professionals.
Yes.
Anyone who wants to learn this can learn it.
Yeah.
We give those people a knowledge of our method of teaching
Your
and
methodology.
our values in learning, which are coming from an African place of being.
Right.
So we give that. And then in the process of doing that, we can speak clearly about other systems and how they work.
Right, okay.
And why they don't work. And maybe why they do work.
Right. Is there can you just a brief difference between like the African system that you're putting in place and the European system? What's the difference in approach and in relation to us as a people?
Okay, so the pedagogy class, we define it in 3 ways. What is the culture of our approach? What are the objectives of our approach? And what are the principles, processes, and protocols of our approach? Right. So we define the culture as Pan-African and Kemetic for classic reference.
Right.
Pan-African means the unity of Africa. We value the unity of Africa.
Right.
And that means that, for me, my experience of that is that as I travel and I see ones who have traveled, we recognize a unity across our cultural heritage.
Right.
We can do some things that we do in one place. We go to a new place and we do the same thing and people say, oh, we know that thing. We do that thing. We do that way. It's a unity. And it's deep like this. Pan-Africa is deep like this. Then Kemetic, Africa, Pan-Africa and the Kemetic culture. Kemetic is ancient Egypt as a classic reference. Where you might think, well, why should you have to think about the classic reference? The fact is, for Europe, every school in this country has Greek as the classic reference.
Well, I see
so
what you're
their
saying.
pedagogy will be, it was pan-Europe, but it's isolationist Britain now. It's some people are trying to go back to the old Empire Britain, and that's the culture they want to set up for the future.
I see what you're saying.
Some people are saying they want to stay with Europe and go for a pan-European culture.
Right,
That's the culture they want to set for this, and they would want their schooling to be like that.
Right.
But then for the classic, they would all agree it's Greek, classic Greek culture.
Yes.
Right, and that is why every book for medicine, for law, for mathematics, all the words for every key idea root down to Greek and Roman, Latin, it's this.
Right, yeah.
Because the classic heritage is that.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that's okay, as long as you know that that's what it is.
Mm-hmm.
And because of that, our communities, should learn Latin. We should set up our own business to go and learn the root language, because we're part of the society. And that's the root for the way into all of those things.
Yep.
Every book that you're going to give your child, mostly, if they're going to go far in a subject, they're going to hit a book that's going to have these words in it.
Yep.
If you don't know the root meaning of the words, you're stuck.
Yep.
So that's what I mean. That's culture. So we should define that. Because I've defined it now, I can say our pedagogy does this, and we have, therefore, classic Kemetic terms for certain things that we value, and we share the meaning of that. And we see that Europe has its own classic terms, and we should value and respect that and know it, understand it. Then there's objectives. What are the objectives? So in ours, we define the first objective is the development of peace as an objective of the learning, the development of productive capacity, to have family, children, to have productive capacity, to development of healthful space. What do we mean by health? Our own reference for this and the value of that. We have these points are structured in a way where you can have an overview of them, and then they come down to, well, how do you do that? How do you do these objectives?
Right.
So then we have principles for that, like Hashima, which is a code of respect, a conduct, a way of respect, and that drills down into some classic ideas. We have a language called Gazat, which means space, province. And what is space? We think we're in space. We move around the space. You walk up the road and this, or you fly, but we should study it, and we should have clarity about our cultural value of space. A difference, you said, what's a difference? I'll give you one difference for that. In an African value of space, we know mind is related to space. Whereas in a European value of space, mind is detached. Mind and consciousness is put in one conversation over there. Space and time is put in another conversation.
Could you give an example on that?
What do you mean?
Just a practical example
Of
what you just said now.
Okay.
Like maybe in a story or an explanation.
Okay, so in the dance, the Dankira Tawagi, the warrior dance, we have a set of movements. The movements are built on a basic form where you're stepping forward and back. And that movement makes a triangle. So the triangle is it's an important shape. But when you draw it, you can see it contains points and line that connect these points. But it has a principle of how it works. The principle is mind. The points where your feet land is the land, and the regions around it is air. That conversation is defining space in a certain way, where there's geometry in space, and you're valuing the geometry in space. You're valuing, let's say, like we're in a room. It has a certain kind of window structure. It's made with a certain kind of angling so that the light works in a certain way. You might think these things are not important. It's just someone's made it. That's how it is. But the point is, someone made it. Someone made it for you, for us. But if we have productive capacity in our communities, we will make things for ourselves. But to make things for yourself, you have to see the depth of where it comes from, how it comes out of the space. We are in a space where, because we're not valuing our mind in the space, someone else is valuing their mind, and then we are consuming the fruit of that.
Right. So it's basically what nature, but linking it with mathematics in a kind of way. Is it kind of like that, rather than separating it as an abstract?
Yeah, that's right. But that point I made about the space, we call it Gazat. And so when we talk about the Gazat, it's land, air, and mind. So it's physical space and metaphysical space. And it's a value that these things are bound together, rather than having them as two separate kinds of conversation, which in a standard system, that's how it is. They're separated. if you connect them, then when you have exercises like the martial arts or yoga or dance generally or other things like this, you will value the breathing, because the breathing helps to connect the mind and the body. So these conversations, there's a scheme of learning for them,
right?
And that the pedagogy helps to explain this. I'm going in a bit deep into it because you asked me a good question, but basically it's to say that in a pedagogy, it explains how all things work together.
Right, I understand.
And in over a period of time, a person, parent, teacher, anyone interested, can learn the basic idea, get the overview, and it would change the way you approach learning for yourself and for your children.
Right, fine. Tamara, you got any questions to ask on that?
Yes, with pedagogy, and what language does it rely on? Like the European thing is based on the Latin. So what African language does the pedagogy rely on?
The word pedagogy is not our word.
Is it mean something to do with children?
Well, let me set that word aside and put in, because you've asked me the question now.
Yeah.
The word, our language is unified knowledge. Yitumur uket. That is an Ethiopian term.
Can you say that word again?
Yitumur uket. Unified knowledge.
Right.
Unified knowledge. We're using the Ethiopian language as a language, a keyword language of instruction. We're using, for some things, Kemetic terms as classic language. And some people may think, oh, well, how are you going to be using some ancient African language? Why? But every day we're using ancient Greek language, and we don't question it. And that's okay. That's okay. So it should be okay to use something that's nearer to where your culture is, so that you have some alignments to that.
Right.
It should be okay. It should be no question at all. But even if you want to put politics to that, many would know that the ancient Greek culture is rooted in the ancient Kemetic culture, the ancient African culture. So that, then there's that as well. That gives that's even more basic reason why a child of African heritage should study classics from Africa. And that particular one, I'm not even saying that that's the only one to study. There's many, but let us agree on one. And that particular space, there's some fruit that's come from there, which stands today, which has left its impression on all other cultures in the world. We should pick it up and say, yes.
So you've got knowledge of the Kemetic language and the Ethiopian language?
Yes.
Okay. And where's that based from?
What do you mean?
Your basis of understanding the Kemetic and the Ethiopian languages. Have you lived there? You studied there? Or what?
So for Ethiopia, I've traveled to Ethiopia.
Right.
And I've spent time there. I've also had the pleasure to support members to travel there to do graduations. We've made cultural exchanges with Ethiopia.
Right.
I have a relationship to Addis Ababa University. I've taken ones from here. We've done performances there. I've done work in some of their faculty like this. So I know it like that. Regarding the Kemetic culture, we have many seasoned scholars that are bringing work forward around African-centered approaches to ancient African culture.
Okay.
So I've learnt through this, and I would say this much: the classic languages I don't consider them living languages like English or Yoruba or Twi or Amarenia. They're not. These are living languages today, politically living languages. Classic languages, it's harder to make them live. But what is important in our system is to use certain classic words for important things. There are important principles that it's not good enough just to say an English word that kind of means the same thing. I'll give you an example. Ma'at. Ma'at is a Kemetic term. It relates to justice, order, reciprocity, ethics, conscientiousness. It's our language. It's our ancient word for this. And there is ancient wisdoms and story for this that we can draw on. We have a large body of well-respected scholars who have drilled into this and pull the essence forward for ones to revive and live forward with this. So it's not a word I am bringing the word. It's something communally, globally, we valued it.
Right, okay.
So we have that in our pedagogy. It's one of our principles.
Right.
Ma'at, it's there twice. Because you have ma'at in the term of ethics and conscientiousness, but you also have ma'at as truth. And as truth, it then connects to mathematics, because mathematics is about truth and proof of truth.
Right.
So ma'at, this is how we can connect them. You asked me what's the difference. This is another difference where the standard system mathematics separates from the ethics. So their mathematics and truth break away from ethics, whereas our ancient mathematics and truth, it's all bound together.
Right. Yeah.
We don't split them. We don't.
Right.
When the weaver is when the one in the market is doing the trading with the scales and they're doing the trade, the math in their scale and their judgment, they can't do the dodgy deal and think it's ethically okay. It sits in a certain place. The math and the truth sit together.
Right. I'm with you on that.
Yeah.
Yes.
And there's some fundamentals like this that if you don't value your own cultural way of seeing that unity, then it's easy to slip into some confused road.
Right, yeah.
Which we're at the moment, the standard system is in a confused road with these things.
Right. I'd like to thank you for that. I'm going to bring back Tamara, and then you're going to take a little break because my brain needs to recover after the next chat. Right. So, can you leave us with your name again? Because but you're not leaving the studio. Just leave us with your name.
No, it's a pleasure. It's Astehmari, and the organisation is Black Open University. The website is blackopenuniversity.eu. Letter E, letter U, and on that site you can get the prospectus. There's loads of other sites. There's many points of entrance to this. We have an event coming up on the 20th. Cultural event, Dark and Wild, which is a social gathering.
So you have regular social gatherings as well?
A monthly event for that. Right. And in the daytime, on the 20th, in the daytime, there's going to be a festival in the park, Chestnut Park. Right. So we'll be there from the early day doing the daytime thing. Then in the evening, we'll be doing the evening thing. And in both of the things, we want to share more of this.
Right. Do you need a performer to come down and perform on that day?
We welcome full collaboration. Everyone's welcome.
Okay, fine.
Give thanks.
Right, so you're gonna be back after the next track, and we haven't time. You haven't gone away yet.
No. Give thanks, Hashima. Let me say Hashima then. Respect to you.
Ereline was my best friend, my cousin and girlfriend. I never ever had to pretend. We lived close together by the sea, on the beach of Lagon. I loved the beauty of her mind and skin, and her spirit deep within. That's my Ereline, childhood sweetheart and darling. So when I had to leave, I was sorely grieved as I held her hands that night on the stars and full moonlight. Although I was just a child, I felt like a man inside. I touched her intimately, enthralled by her beauty, knowing I'd soon be missing our touching, cuddling, and kissing. Although we were just children, we knew we were more than just friends, and that loving feeling would never end. Now all I'm left with is the loving memory and scent of her presence, now absent, and the sound of the waves that gently kissed the shore, with that sinking feeling, knowing I'd be seeing her no more. With that sinking feeling, knowing I'd be seeing her no more.
Absolutely fabulous track. Can you tell us about that track? Introduce yourself once again for any newcomers to the scene who've just joined us. I'm Bless.
Yes, blessed love, greetings everyone. My name is Tamara Gabriel, singer-songwriter and charity founder from Rehab to Life Foundation. And that track, Ereline. Yeah, Ereline was my best friend, my cousin and girlfriend. It's as simple as that. I was, say, 6, and she was about the same age, and we were in love. And we knew it, we felt it, but we were just little children.
Wow. That sounds like a movie. and is that story in your forthcoming book?
Yes, it's in my forthcoming book, which is called From Rehab to Life, but it's up to the publishers when they're going to publish the book.
So the book's been finished then, is it?
Yeah, the book is ready to go. It's just down to the publishers when they would like to release it, market and promote it as well. That's their department, according to the contract.
How long did it take you to write this book then?
It took me about 7 months to write the book, and I mostly wrote the book really at nights, after midnight till maybe 6, 7, 8 in the morning.
Wow.
Or I'd get up at 3 in the morning and write till 12 in the day.
Jeez, that is real, some real dedication.
But it was like every day. It was just every day. I'd just get up and,
How did you drive yourself to do that?
I didn't. It was driving me. It was just, yes, it was like as though I just connected with the truth, like the brother was talking about. The truth, and the truth just drove me on. You've got to do this. This is the right thing to do. Can you feel it? Yeah. Okay, just start writing. So,
wow, fantastic, man. So can you tell us a little bit more about the charity as well? What you do for charity? What the charity is set up to do?
Yes, the charity From Rehab to Life Foundation is set up to steer people away from drug and alcohol addiction and violence and crime, in particularly the young.
Right.
And we aim to do this through education and through communication, and interaction with the parents as well as the children. But we're also here for older folk. You could be my age or younger or older, and you need help. You want to come off the drugs and alcohol addiction thing, or maybe you're still being violent and very criminal and dishonest, and you really would like to change your ways and have some peace of mind and feel good about yourself and not having to draw the curtains and live a sort of a cloak and dagger life. Then yes, do call us. We're here to help you.
How can people get in contact with you?
Yes, you can contact us on 07960 976 920.
Can you give that number once again?
07960 976 920.
And I can see someone, they reach for the pen and the pen don't work. So can you give it one more time?
Yes, indeed. I understand. 07960 976 920.
Thanks. Have you got any more musical ventures in store for us, or anything else happening for you?
Yes. Well, the fact is, I've got some songs that I need to record. They've been sitting down so long waiting. And also some poems as well, just like with poems to music. Well, that one's already been done already, but I've got a lot of written work that I need to record. I've got a catalog that I need to record.
So you've got a catalog. So you constantly write, do you, or how does it work for you?
Well, I'm constantly writing, yes. Not as much as I used to, because I've got to focus and, got to spend time running the charity at the moment, and so on and so forth. But yes, I just write it anywhere, anytime. Just like now, earlier on, those lyrics came out. I should have written them down.
Yeah, you should have written them down. I can't believe that you just made those up,
Yes. It's only by the grace of the Most High.
Yes, that's fantastic. You got anything you want to ask the brother? Oh, you just sorry, there's an on switch there. I should have told you that. Yes.
No, it sounds wonderful. What's the name of the charity again?
From Rehab to Life Foundation.
How did you come with this?
I came with that through, actually it was called Every Heartbeat. Actually the name came about, I was looking for a title for my album. An album which has got narration in front of every track. So the narrator, which is myself, narrates and tells you, well, when I entered rehab, I was, spiritually and mentally deceased and disconnected by my addiction. And this led me to write the song Love on the Internet, and all that sort of thing. And so that is an album that's there, they're waiting to be waiting for release. But my other works, I've got a lot of other work out there that hasn't yet been recorded, and we need to record them.
Right, I'm going to play one more track from your album. What's the album entitled again?
The album is Ex Gangsta's Odyssey.
Another track, Ex Gangsta's Odyssey. Any particular track you'd like us to hear?
Well, the track, let's say, yes, The Absence of Light, brother, The Absence of Light.
And what track is that one?
The Absence of, that's the last track, number 9.
Exclusive track right here.
The Absence of Light. As I slipped into the darkness at the dawn, in boxes only by the riverbank, yet somehow I never jumped in. Although the voice that beckoned me from the water was enchantingly convincing. As trains came into the station, my back was glued to the wall, so I wouldn't fall or dive, thus keeping myself alive. I was hanging by a thread instead of a rope. My mortality clung to a glimmer of hope. I wasn't that innocent, having brutalized men and women for pride and money, let down God Almighty, myself, friends and family, and many members of society. Remorse, resentment, regret, guilt, and shame were feelings and emotions that have no name, that which I can never, ever explain. Accepting life on life's terms gave me the balance and gave me the peace I needed for the power of love to be released, as self-centeredness gradually became deceased. Cleansed with confession and forgiveness, I was no more a prisoner of the past. Now became the only place to be, with the future always looking bright. Now I know the darkness is always the absence of light. I repeat, now I know the darkness is always the absence of light.
Absolutely fabulous. How long did it take you to write that one?
That one must have taken me maybe about half an hour or something like that.
Half an hour?
Yeah, well, under an hour anyway.
Wow.
Yeah.
Because the way you do them, what I like is it's a story. It's not just a hook line and a chorus.
Oh, yeah, it's got to have meaning. It's got to have depth to it, like our brother here was talking about, when I write things, they've got to come from a deep place, You've got to travel eons and eons of play, to get there. Immeasurable miles to get there, more than miles.
You are the griot. You are the griot. You are the great storyteller. We need that. We need that, definitely.
Yes, brother.
And the thing is, because you're talking from experience, it's different. Because a lot of these artists now, you know, they've got the big talk, but they're not talking through the experience. And plus, they're not the depth of the experience that you've gone through. I mean, what you've gone through and come back from, you know, not many could do that, you know. So
Absolutely. I mean, even my daughters congratulated me the other day. Said, "Dad, man, you're great. You know, at your age, you're still going strong. You're still, you know, doing stuff like this." Most people, they would have just retired and say, "Well, I've had my day in the sun." However, I'm driven by my desire to fulfill my purpose here.
Right.
You know, probably if I'd lost that desire, I doubt if I'd be here.
And what is the desire now for you? What is the purpose you want to fulfill?
Well, the purpose is to heal, you know, it's to heal the world, you know, heal our brothers and sisters. As they talk about the absence of light, is to bring light into people's lives, you know, to be the bearer of good news, you know, something to bring some joy into people's lives, to take off the weight off their shoulders, you know, get the stress out their lives, you know, we can do that. I'd love to combine with this brother here with his educational program,
Sounds like
and so on, because from rehab to life, you know, we work with the educational tools, you know. Yes, like what the brother there's talking about, that'd be the right tools to work with, as well as you know, the crime and punishment thing, and you know, the consequences of going down that road as well. But yes.
Yeah, man. What's your drive then? What's your drive that keeps you going? And what's your?
Well, I think it's the same thing. Of course, it's the healing. It's the clarity to see a situation and know the blessedness. We're blessed to know you have something to contribute for that, and that together we can build up our contribution. We have to stand properly for this. Regarding the working, it's great to hear the story, to hear that song, that track, or that utterance. I put it like the utterance. It's utterance to me, because that's the vehicle for carrying all kinds of learning. You got a story for that one, but for me, every kind of learning we want to do can be expressed through story.
Right.
But then the issue is that we don't have many storytellers that want to tell all the stories.
Yeah.
Sometimes we want to tell one story that we have to tell, or we want to tell. But if we could just tell the full balance of stories in a certain way, then the young could receive the catalogue, the archive like this. So yeah,
and the youth
very
do.
welcome, man. You're very welcome.
They do learn with stories. That's where they get their information from. You know, so it is a great learning tool for us to be able to tell stories to our youth. You know, away from the soap operations that's going on.
That's right.
You know, so
see, we as you know, we're in a story. It's a story, but the stories are trivialized, and you're hitting on some important things. We can bring out even the day-to-day story, the depth of it, the richness of the learning, the values in it. We need that. We need reminder, and the voice is rich. Is this quality? It's honed.
Yeah,
give thanks.
So is that a voice that you can give to somebody else, or is it your unique? I wouldn't mind taking something in my pocket, you know.
Well, this is it, you know. I've got to make good use of it, you know. This is why I'm busy doing what I'm doing. I've got to make use of this voice. Simple as that. That's what I was given. Use it.
Do you train it, or do you do anything for it?
No, I just practice with it, but I don't really train it as such. It's just there. It was something that was recognized in me from school, you know, all those long speeches and, you know, and all these plays I was given, you know, the parts to speak them, you know, like the Merchant of Venice and all that kind of stuff. Which, you know, we're in Black People program now, you know, we're talking about the Merchant of Venice. But that was my education.
Wow.
And I was given these, you know, these parts to play, you know.
Fantastic. So have you done acting as well then?
Yes. I've, in fact, people could, if you look for a film called Last Move online, you'll find me acting in that as a gangster boss. I've also produced a documentary.
You produced a documentary,
Yes, called The Slave Boy Who Became the Bishop. Originally, we called it just The Bishop, but actually we changed that now to The Slave Boy Who Became a Bishop. And about a young slave boy, Samuel J. Crowther's journey through life and how he ended up being a bishop.
Wow. Is it based? Is it an idea, or is it based on the true story?
Oh, it's based on the true story. It was Frank Macaulay. It's his great grandfather. You know, who was around in Queen Victoria's time, just when slavery had been abolished in principle, but not in practice. You know, and a lot of the British Navy boats out on the Atlantic, they'd be intercepting a lot of slave ships heading for the Caribbean and the Americas, and they'd intercept them and bring the human cargo to Freetown, well, to Sierra Leone. Which they later, that place, they called it Freetown because they freed a lot of slaves.
Right.
And that's where Samuel Ajay Crowther, he was met there by, or he met a priest there who came from England, and he brought him back to England, and he studied here and so forth.
Is this documentary out there now, or is it?
No, it's not actually. We're going to put it out there. We're going to put it out there. It's not out there. It's on the shelf at the moment. I was looking to get it, what do you call that word again? Get it commissioned by the BBC, but or Channel 4 or whatever. Right. I tried these avenues. It didn't work out as far as that's concerned. And it's just been sitting there thinking what we're going to do with it. And it's been years sitting there. We need to put it out there.
Right. Well, I'd like to thank you. We're running out of time. Definitely going to have you back here again. Once again, where can people get hold of you? And
yes,
leave us your name again. Give us your name and your info.
Yes, my name is Tamara Gabriel. Tamara. Tamara Gabriel, and you can get in touch with me on 07956. Let me just get this right, because sometimes these numbers. Oh, yes, 07960 976 920. Or you can also go to my website on number 4, Tamara Gabriel, number 9 at gmail.com.
Can we get that number again, the mobile?
07960 976 920.
Once again, I'd like to thank you. I'm going to leave you one more track.
Could you make that track there called Dishonesty and Violence, please?
Which track is that? What number is it?
If you just pass me the sleeve there, I'll tell you.
Right.
It's Dishonesty and Violence. That's track number 5.
Track number 5, right. Another track from
Dishonesty and Violence. In HMP Maidstone, I said I'd renounce dishonesty and violence if God granted me parole. And as soon as it was granted, commenced the cleansing of my soul. What was I going to do with so many options in view? The answer swiftly came when, as a victim of a burglary game, all my treasured possessions were taken away, save the Bible and the ganja herb that laid amongst the Psalms that kept me calm while keeping evil away. It wasn't easy. In relapse, I stole and defrauded a little, but by the grace of God, I got back on track with some ganja I bought to sell and to get some money back. And as the business rapidly grew, I became shepherd and head of a ganja crew. Sprinkled ganja in my idol stew. Ganja tea was my morning brew. Ganja cakes and pudding for the chosen few. I was strictly idol through and through. surrounded by gangsters, reggae stars, and DJs too, with their crew. The chalice we lit burned an ounce at a time, and as we gave thanks and praises to the Most High Yah, with conscious reasoning on biblical lines. If we smoke 16 ounces, half or 3/4, or all the bill was mine. With 2 restaurants and a nightclub, photography business, pool and electronic games venture, Child record label too, including the ganja business, I was doing very well, thank you. I had a collector's Mercedes, a BMW, and more cars parked outside. The house in which I lived with 3 women, at which men would marvel and sigh. How do you do it? And I would simply say, honesty and money paved the way, resulting in peace of mind and integrity.
With that note, absolutely fabulous. And right now we're going to change once again. Once again, I'd like to thank you for taking your time out from your busy schedule to come down.
Thank you, brother Jammers. You're a great DJ.
Thank you.
Look forward to our next round.
Definitely. There's going to be many more of those, you know. Thanks again.
Love to everyone.
Respect.
Light and healing.
Respect every time.
Love you all. Remember to ask for help. Don't suffer in silence. Throw away the pride. Get real. Get honest. Blessed love.
Respect the great man, Tamara Gabriel. Look out for him. You're going to be hearing a lot of him on rotations, definitely from me. And back in the seat once again. Introduce yourself once again for those who just joined us.
Astehmari, give thanks. Yes, that was wonderful. I love to hear good poetry like that. Very healing.
Yes.
You know what I like about this poet here? Give thanks for the presence, because the good poetry, I can feel how many ones listening to it will just enter the road of healing. It's from a position,
right?
It's a position that knows the story, and then many ones who have touched into that road, they can hear it and they can ease themselves forward on it.
Wow, that's fantastic.
I
like
the quality of the thing. No, it's the quality of the thing. It's the quality of the thing. I know it.
Wow.
It's the same business. This is for me. You asked me a question about the pedagogy and things in it.
Yes.
The final point of the pedagogy for our process is the story.
Right.
That's the story. That is it. Use of story for conveying the learning.
Right.
So this is story. Many stories, snapshots of life experience, wisdom, choices.
Right.
From a one that's traveled the road. For ones that maybe they're not so far down the road, or they were on the road and they want to hear it again to know that many ones know the way.
Right. Okay.
So it's wonderful. This is poetry.
Fantastic. And I just say, what age group do you take in on your?
Well, like I said, I'm not joking. From pre-birth.
Oh, you mentioned pre-birth.
Yeah, I did. From pre-birth.
How does that work then?
Let me make it practical for persons. So, the main learning is from 5 upwards, and generally the learnership is from 5 years old to 13, 14. This age range, we have children that are in learning.
Is it part-time? How does it work?
Some of it is full-time, or there are full-time options.
Right.
And some of it is what you call part-time or after-school options, like this. It's our operation is not. It's not a mass market operation. It's not a thing where there's hundreds of people involved in the learnership in terms of children in a class.
Right.
It's a focused learnership. It's a leadership school.
Right.
So the things that we've just been speaking about, you might be thinking, someone's might be thinking, oh, is it too much? Is it too advanced? Do they need to have level 9. Why should they aim for level 9 when they can just do the standard work that the school feels they can do? Our work, and you asked about calling, our work is about leadership. We're a leadership development. We need to develop leadership. So those parents and people who know they have leadership around them, young people who should be nurtured and given the opportunity, then there's a provision for them.
If parents experience like maybe behavioural problems with their children, do you cater for that aspect as well?
Yes.
You do? Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
Behavioural issues, there are many routes for this. I think the biggest issue around that is our own sense of the general pressures in society.
Right.
The kind of things that our children see as they see us and themselves in society. That as adults, many times we stop seeing it. We're too far away from that youthful perspective to see how it looks.
That's key, yeah.
For example, we have many ones who will find themselves in the bookies, let's say like this. But if you look into our bookies today, you're going to find generally mostly brown people in there, especially in an area like this. And for our young ones, when they come from school toing and froing and they see this image and then they see the contrast, like we might be in certain positions, we in the high positions in the banking, in the finance, in the office, but we also in those cleaning positions, those road positions. Our children see that. They see the imbalance of things like this, and we should realize that they're seeing that. And then when they're in a school environment where the teacher's telling them basically you're a second class person and your road is going to be like this, then they see some things on the road. It's a picture, and you have to, as a community, we have to cut into that picture and say, actually, no, your potential is much bigger than this. And what I see in you, as in the parent sees in the child, or the community sees in the family, is way beyond the construct of the standard system's values.
Right.
You can't sit under it and say we'll do all right. No one is going to do all right under this. So we're leadership for that.
Okay, that sounds great. Yeah. So in that context, what you're talking about, because I know, especially in the Western institutions, they use a brand of like, or how could I put it, Western psychology. You know, so in relation to try to analyze problems or whatever, or correct behavior.
Yeah.
So your approach, is it more from that Afrocentric approach that you use to the wisdom that you use to deal with so-called behavioral issues?
It's coming from our cultural values, the value of culture, the value of community, the value of family,
right?
And having the child to learn that in a standard system. Children are typically they're introduced to a individualistic road,
right,
which is a value for themselves and their own identity as sovereign to everyone else, including their parents. So there is, there's something to value for valuing yourself.
Yeah.
But in our culture, we don't invite our children to detach themselves from their families.
Right.
I'll give you an exact example of what I mean. There was an organization called Kids Company. I'm not afraid to call out their name because that company broke. They fell. And when they fell, I don't know if you know the story, but...
No, I don't know. Can you enlighten us with the story?
I'll tell you a little bit of the story.
Yeah.
So this organization was famed for its ability to engage communities, particularly ones who are supposed to be in need, like having a hard time, desperate families, broken families, poverty, families in poverty. This group said they could do that work. They could reach these people, and largely it's brown people, melanated people that they were reaching. And melanated people, they were getting credit for reaching. They got themselves into a position where the government, this is Cameron's government. They were backing that organization, giving them large amounts of money. And then it turns out that they were misusing the money But organizations like ours on the ground knew that they were doing that, because we would see that they would, for example, give children money for things that you don't give children money for, just for shoes and shiny things, not because they need those things, but because they want to keep them in the service. So I could see that they were running a kind of thing like a garrison. I know one's in the Caribbean. You know what a garrison is. You got some hard people at the front securing money and a little ease for the people in the garrison. Everyone outside of the garrison, their enemy potentially. If you're in it, you're protected. If you're out of it, then be careful. Like this. So they set themselves like that. You can't run that in England and put us at the heart, black people at the heart of your garrison, and pimp us for money from the government. So the money comes from the government, so you can run your garrison, so you can give a youth a £10 from nowhere for nothing, just to keep him in your thing. But this is the psychology now. At the front of the program, I'm sharing this story because I want to share that we have an overview to these kind of things. So at the front, you've got what looks like poor people needing support. We're going to give them we're going to give them a soup kitchen. We're going to give them shiny shoe. We're going to give them money here and there. Maybe that looks good. But then at the back of it, you've got psychologists who are the professionals, the managers in the service. And their thing is, they have a thing called attachment theory. This is recognized. When the government were giving them money, they gave them money to run that program. Attachment theory is about detaching the child from the parents into the social worker. So when those families were bringing their youths into their program, their business was to make the child become attached to the agency and specifically detached from the family, because the family aren't competent. Right. So that's the back end. Our position is to know that's the back and the front. And I won't hesitate to call them out, in Lambeth, we wrote to the directorship for this. When we saw them making their movements around the borough, kids company, we wrote to them and said, look, these people have got a bad history. Even they got some racism in their history for advertising against black people. It's obvious. We wrote to them. They ignored it because they said they got money. They said they got backing from the government. So the council brought them in. Then the thing basically broke. It turned out they had misspent the money. Cameron wanted to keep giving them money, but his deputy said no, and it broke badly. It touched the head of the country. Imagine that.
Wow.
But I'm telling the story because in between the little cracks of this is our children and their ideas of what we're about, that they would put an operation in our community to detach our children from our families and attach them to the social workers who are not really working for our best interests. These things are terrible.
That's what you said is a big one, because basically that's another thing what they done with the family when the women got the houses and the man didn't. So that's the same attachment to the government away from the family. Yeah, so that's a serious. And then there's attachment to fashion, attachment to music. So that's a serious.
Right, it's very true. And that attachment. See, now in our practice, in our pedagogy, far from doing attachment, I would teach and advocate detachment. Can
you just say a little bit about this attachment? Where did it come from, or do you know anything about it?
Attachment.
It's a psychology. It's a psychological phenomenon.
It's a recognized approach to learning, which is it's a psychological approach to learning and development and social relationships, particularly with children.
Right.
It's a recognized model. If you search it, if you Google
I'll
attachment
have to look at
theory,
that. Yeah.
you're going to get the history for this thing.
So, with this like desexualization or whatever, is that part of this process of attaching you to nothing now? Where the child now can no longer say he or she?
Before I get to that, that's a road, that's a thing.
Yeah, okay.
But before I get to that, so I was just saying about detachment.
Yeah, detachment.
I would advocate detachment, and in that principle, learning to question one's attachments. The things that we feel we are attached to, we should question them and test the limits. And that goes down to, basically, it goes down to food and breath. That's where you have fasting to explore the real relationship like this. and other kinds of attachments. People have emotional attachments, and we should explore what these things are doing with us, how we are really, how our well-being is affected by it. So now this thing about, I think you're touching on the gender identity.
Yeah,
and
just
all
a little
that,
bit, just a little bit based on this attachment thing,
Ah.
or whatever you comes to mind. I know. So this is something for another day. Still, it's something for another day. But yeah.
Well, directly, I find the young people that I encounter are confused by the situations their standard system schooling puts them in,
right?
Where they are invited to question things that are not held in the same value at home,
right?
And that is a deliberate. There's a deliberate effort for that. That's why those people in Birmingham, they're having this argument. You're familiar with the
Not fully, but
okay. So there's a school in Birmingham. There are some teachers in the school running a program, and I haven't gone into the full depth of that. But basically, it's around LGBT awareness, of different types of relationships, and they want to have all children have that awareness. There are some parents who don't want their children to enter that conversation, because they feel it relates to other things, sexuality and sexual education. They feel it relates to that, so they don't want their children to enter the road. They don't want the school to be the one to bring that to their children, so they're taking them out, and they're arguing. So now the system is in an argument with the community, and those communities who are arguing are saying, and this is not just Muslims, it's it's other groups, Christian groups and other groups are saying we don't want to do it that way. So now basically the system is in a position where it's trying to push a certain agenda, but there's a backlash against it. And my concern for that is that it appears the system can't communicate with people who have concerns around that agenda. They can't. The communication is like, if you don't agree with our agenda, then you're just backwards and wrong, and we're going to turn you off the media. I listen to people trying to discuss it on the radio or on other media. If they're not saying what the line is, they're turned off. And they're projected as just having an ignorant view. And the general agenda, the general conversation is that if parents are not agreeing with our line, then we'll turn them off. And if they're not, this is where it gets to the root. If parents aren't allowing the schools to do this, then we're going to get into the home and find out, well, why? What's happening at home? Maybe we need to take this child away because the parent's not doing enough to tell them about this range of things that we want the child to know when they're 5. That kind of argument is it's a bit brutal. It's a bit draconian. It's very questionable because it's so blunt, and they don't seem to be able to allow reasoning, and so some people are rejecting it. That's the bottom line. People are rejecting it.
I think there's a case.
Personally, I think maybe your question started to ask me personally. We're working with African classical values, and so there are principles about union and the values of union and creativity, creation, and all manner of variations of union, but there are some fundamentals about what generates life going forward, what ways generate life. I would say Pan-Africa, there is a value for the generation of life, and the natural order that generates life.
And I do see that, and I think it is like one culture is trying to impose its ancient way of doing things on another culture. For whatever reason,
this is global. This is global. But you see, those arguments, whilst those arguments, this country and Europe may happily, easily push the argument into Africa, and certain African countries by force of money and economics, must change their national policy to take in certain policies in order to keep getting certain resources.
Right, yeah.
But they won't take it to Saudi Arabia. They won't take these arguments over there. And, why? Why not? In some places, they're cutting hands and doing stuff that surely here we would say this is barbaric. But we're not taking the argument over there. We're not taking.
So it's not
it's economics.
It's
It's abuse. It's abuse. It's an abuse of a kind of advantage, but that advantage only exists because we ourselves allow it to exist. We accept the arguments.
Yeah.
And those people in Birmingham, I don't know them, but I respect that they've taken it on themselves to argue their points.
Yeah, good. I like that.
Like this. That's important.
Yeah.
And I'm involved in research, and I've done research in many areas of education. And the things I see warrant arguments. They warrant concern. They warrant people saying, what's going on? Stop. Stop doing that. We're not accepting that. It warrants this.
Yeah.
But I don't hear enough people saying that.
Yeah, right. It's because they're perceived as still perceived as the authority. That's the thing,
That's right.
Yeah.
And that's a problem. We have a WhatsApp group, Black Open University WhatsApp group. Someone posted in there an opportunity in quotes, and apparently Eton, the famous school college, were looking to allow some year 11 students, secondary school students, an opportunity to go to Eton in September. Apparently, that's what it said. And it said they wanted to basically increase or address the imbalance of people of disadvantaged backgrounds. Now, that you might think Eton is a great school. Do you want to send your child there because the school needs to do something about their disadvantaged background quota? It's nothing to do with the child's powers and well-being and the greatness that you want for your child.
Right, yeah, right.
It's to do with a quota, and they want to fix up their quota so they don't look bad. It's nothing to do with fixing the systemic problems that our communities are having with education. It's to do with getting 5 children in their place, and when they get the 5, the box is ticked. We've got thousands of children who are in standard system education, who have been put into foundation tier, hundreds of thousands maybe like this, who are in foundation tier when they shouldn't be, when their potential says they can be much better than that.
Right.
If the day that Eton College says, we got a program, we can't tackle it in our one institution, but we're going to roll out something that's going to help address this, then I'll say, okay, that you sound like you've got some good intention. You can't say, send us your children to fix our quota and expect respect for that. But the problem is, there's 2 problems in that. One, unfortunately, most of our community are intimidated by the standard system. I know this. I know this. We're intimidated by the structures of schools, let alone colleges and universities. And let me just rest it on that. We're intimidated by it. So anyone from an institution that's saying anything, generally people are inclined to take it on.
They look as a police or
that's
government.
bullying. That's bullying. And some institutions are abusing us because they know we're insecure about talking to them about the wrongs and the rights of things.
Right. So you had
Yes, brother, you spoke about bullying. Well, the word grooming comes up as well. There's a perception going around that little children, school children, are being groomed by these certain curriculums that they've come up with, causing sexual confusion and also fear and anxiety, which in itself leads to children becoming what they are not. I mean, my grandson came home to me one day, well, not to me, to his mother's house, and I was there, and he said, "Granddad," he said, "am I a boy or a girl?"
Wow.
I said, "What?"
How old is he?
And he was 6 at the time. Was he 6? 5 or 6 at the time.
Wow.
And I said, where did you get that from? Who asked you that question? He said, I was in school today and this is what came up. I said, son, my dear son, when a child is born, they look between their legs or between their thighs, and if you've got a little sausage there hanging down there, they say it's a boy. And if there's no sausage there, they say it's a girl. You know, this is how we know it as being a boy or a girl, son. This is how it is. It's as simple as that. There's no rocket science to it. We're already being dictated to what we are by our body, by our physical bodies.
You know what? I mean, we're big people here, so you touched on a very, very deep reason. And yesterday, I was listening to this same conversation on a different station, not blessed like this. They were talking the same conversation, and people were phoning in, talking their positions and their views. So when you say we're born and it's clear, there's a whole nother argument around this to say that it's not clear, to say that science says that there is a spectrum between the gender. And numerous people, if you opened up your line, I think some people might phone in and say, oh, I knew I was born this way. People said I'm this way because of what's between my leg, but I knew I was the other way from I was born or from I was free. There are people with these arguments like this. So this conversation is not simple. It's not as simple as saying what you just said. And we can say it. You can say it to your grandson. Of course you can. But when they hear the other thing, it will, unless we talk around the whole thing fully, it's not going to be a simple thing. So, yeah, it's something to talk about. And then there is a situation where, for example, there's the athletes the female athlete who has a higher degree of testosterone and other male-related hormones, and she performed better than everyone else, and they want to ban her. There's a big international thing for this. So she's arguing she's woman, and they're arguing, no, well, you're not regular woman. So these agenda, it's easy for us in this room to drop a simple lyric and say between the leg, done. And most of us in the community, we're going to hold that. But the argument that the children get in the school, which is why that your one came forward, and it's blessed that he came home to talk it through. Because think about all the ones that don't come home and talk it through. Yeah. They don't have granddad to hear the wisdom. So they just have it in their mind until something else impacts upon them. So it requires our own holding of where the arguments go, where the current science goes, where our culture holds this conversation. It won't be enough to drop a simple lyric. It might be enough for one child, but it won't be enough to deal with the fact that for your child who came back with it, all of our children, probably for all the parents listening to this, most of their children are either in or near a conversation like this. And when they're having that conversation, the parent is not there. And even harder, parents may not even have a view that they can communicate with their child.
Right, and as you're saying, it's adults. They're listening to an adult, so they're listening to an authority talking
That's right.
to them.
It's authority.
Yeah.
It's a parent authority.
Yeah.
But even that, the authority, in our model, the authority is in the parent cooperative. The parents are the governorship. They are the authority. The parent is the primary educator, and we are trying to empower that position. A school, part of their model, just like attachment theory, a part of their model is to break that relationship of authority so that the child starts to see the school and the teachers as the authority for education. So the teacher in the school becomes the primary educator, differently from the parent. That's difficult. And our weakness in that is our fear of returning to our own learning, our own position as learners.
What's the fear of us doing that?
because we took damage when we were in the school system. Most adults took damage in the school system. And so when their child comes back with some algebra or some historic thing, Euro-historic thing that we're not really seasoned on, we might be inclined just to say, okay, well, I don't really know that. Just the teacher's telling you, just take on what they're doing and just let it pass. Or worse, we might just be afraid, properly afraid to talk to them about some things.
Yeah, and then they're pushing their
insecure. Afraid boils down to insecurity.
Right.
So you would, many parents would question their own judgments or their own abilities and their own authority as the primary educator.
Right.
So our work is to rebuild our own confidence as the primary educator. And we can build our own institutions to secure learning, not only just to secure it to some basic level that's like comparable to what's out there, but to a better level. That's really the point. We've got more potential. And this system can never recognize our potential.
Excuse me, when you talk about our institutions, you're talking about us, the people, basically, not the institutions that's already in place here at the moment.
When I say our institution, I mean like
Our
charity.
families.
I mean like your charity that you were talking about the charity work you're doing.
Yes.
This is the either it's an institution or it's the beginning of institution.
Yes.
Our work as the Black Open University and all the work around that and all the many ones doing good work in the community around education. That as together is institution.
Wonderful.
It's institution. We do need to do some work to, make
Thank
it
you
work
so
better.
much. Thank you so much. Because a lot of people think of prisons, as institution, and hospitals, and
right. Thank you for checking me on that, because but you see, it's language. Because those ones in the prison, some of them will be in prison for enterprise. You see, now you and I, we know the word. When you say enterprise, when I was younger, and it's the enterprise, you want to get into enterprise. But now, if a group of youth are on the road, one of them does something, or even none of them does anything, but one of them gets pulled up for doing something, all of them can serve long time or be punished because they're in an enterprise with this one. And they call it enterprise. That's a corruption of a word that we want our children to be in enterprise, to be enterprising. We want our community to be enterprising. But they're corrupting the word by making it something that's going to take one to prison. No. So what do we do now? Do we throw away the word enterprise and let the word enterprise sit at a higher level of business where it's real money again? Where banks will invest, look at someone's business plan and give them, say, oh, that's a good enterprise. We'll give you £100,000 for that. We want to let enterprise sit there. And then when it comes down to our children, enterprise means you're going to prison because you know that one that did that thing. Or you know that one that might have done that thing. This is language, and this is the issue with if we don't understand the language, we'll be under it. And under the language is very bad. I'll tell you who gave me a word to learn. Boris Johnson. He gave me a word. He said, they had this leak thing with the American ambassador. Someone leaked the American ambassador's words when he was saying that Trump is basically, and his work is rubbish. So someone leaked it. It caused a problem, and Boris Johnson said whoever leaked it should be eviscerated. And I thought, oh, look at that word. I didn't even know that word. Eviscerated. Oh, what's that? You know what that means? It means disemboweled.
Yeah.
Disemboweled. The man who's going to be the head of this country was saying that someone who did wrong should be disemboweled, have their bowels taken out.
What's that word again?
Now, if our youth,
Eviscerated.
if our youth were to say, I'm a cutter man for that, it's the same thing. Now, he can say, oh, I didn't mean it. You can say that as well. I didn't mean it. I'm just talking big. But a youth will go to prison for them talk. A man will get in trouble for that. He's the next head of state.
Yes, so this is what...
He didn't say we should catch the person who did it and give them a prison time. He said they should be disemboweled. Now, and no one's questioned that because he got a pretty word for it. That's language. That's language. The man who is going to be your leader, I'm saying your specifically because, I'm in a leadership school, so leadership around me is different still. But the one who's going to be your leader, he will disembowel you if you do something wrong. He will disembowel someone in his own government. Imagine that.
So in other
If
words,
a black man done that, if an African leader said that, then it'll be cannibalism
savage, yeah.
and barbarism
So
and all kind of
savagery,
talk like
yeah.
this, savagery.
So-
Mugabe said that.
So you was gonna say, in other words,
yeah, so in other words, we've already got a picture of what sort of prime minister this country is going to have if you vote for it when they put him in power.
That's right.
If they put
That's
him in
right.
power. He's showing us, expect this sort of
That's right. That's right.
bureaucracy.
He's gonna talk that language with a smile. People are already saying that he got racist tendencies. So now he wasn't even talking about us in this situation. This conversation is not about us. It's just about their own politic with other nations like this, and the fact that the country's being made to look like a child to America. But when those issues turn around to the crime and the waywardness of parents not managing their children and things to be done, he will want to
Using that
eviscerate
again,
us.
as well.
We want to disembowel the parents. If the parents don't handle it, I think we should disembowel them. Watch the lyrics.
Serious,
He's a
man.
man who will talk words and trick people for that.
serious, but we've run out of time now. So can you once again give us anyone who wants to join your school?
Okay, well,
and also your event that you're having on the 20th.
the event on the 20th, there's two events. One is Chestnut Park Fest, and that's going to be from 10 till 4
Yes.
in Chestnut Park in Tottenham. And in the park is Chestnut Community Centre. We are based in the Chestnut Community Centre. And our evening event, Dark and Wild Gathering, is from 7 till a good time.
Right.
A time for reasoning and for dance. We're going to be showing, some hint of the warrior dance. So people should come, bring your drums if you have drums and you want to bring those kind of vibes. Bring yourself and come and experience something new. If you I came here today to promote our prospectus, our new course guide. If you want to get that, visit blackopenuniversity.eu, blackopenuniversity.eu, and from there you can pick up this. My number, direct number, and the WhatsApp number 07930501777, and that's the WhatsApp number. So there's different groups for this, futurist and things like this.
Right.
It's been a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, been a pleasure to have you. Definitely got to come back as well, because some of your other that attachment thing ain't going from my brain. I'm going straight on to go research that.
Yeah,
So,
check it out. It's deep.
yeah,
It's
I
deep.
really like your perspectives and the ways that you're looking at different areas. So definitely
Give thanks.
be supporting that.
Yeah,
whatever
and
you
I
do.
can see you're an etymologist. You're a man of words. Yeah, we need that. We need to drill down into these words, because I have a sister in. She always says she's a very eloquent person, but she always says, "Oh, English is my second language," because it's even. I was talking about the math and the foundation tier, but in English language, as a GCSE, our ones are also being entered as foundation tier.
Right.
That means that we're going to learn foundation level language, but there's a higher level of language.
Well,
That's a setup.
Well, the thing is, it goes a bit, even deeper than that as well. Basically, it's copying our ancient Kemetic system of language, where you've got the higher system, the wisdom, then you've got the administrative, which is the law of finance, then you've got the demonstrative. The demonstrative is the language of a dog language, where you show somebody what to do, but you don't tell them the intricacies of the how or the why.
Okay.
So once I show you, go there, it's exit, go there, but I'm not showing you why these symbols equal to action. I already own you. The sound becomes an order.
Enslavement.
Yeah. So that
That's right.
demonstrative language is a language of showing.
That is perfect. That's the perfect summary between our pedagogy and the standard system.
Right.
Our work is about teaching all levels of the language to empower not only the learner but the whole family to own the whole process.
Right.
Whereas the standard system is going to give foundation levels so that you will have to be under something.
Yeah.
Someone else will have to give you full instruction, will be able to manage you and subjugate.
That's what it's about, yeah.
And we can't accept that.
That's why it's comprehensive, because I understand. You can comprehend the one who's giving you the grammar, who's putting forward the grammar. Pro means to put forward, program to understand.
Okay.
It's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah, but once again, a pleasure. Definitely got to have you back here sooner rather than later. And of course,
Thank you.
any final words from yourself?
It's an honor to
Yes,
welcome
brother.
you.
Final words, love, light, and healing to everybody. I've been uplifted by this brother. Your name again, brother?
Astehmari.
Astehmari, yes. Watch out for that man. He's come to heal the community, and we hope to work together with him. And also, do you see the similarities between Trump and this brother you was just talking about there?
Definitely. They're kindred. They are kindred spirits. But I think that they will clash. I think they will clash because what Trump did in that situation recently is he managed to, with a few tweets, he managed to slap Theresa May on the back of her neck as she's leaving government and put Boris Johnson in a very compromised position. And it makes him look like a P-boy, a boy to him. It makes him look like that. So when he does get into power, Trump will do it again to try and show the world that he is the boss for England. And I don't think Boris can take that too long. So then he's going to fight with him. And he resisted it now because he wants to get into power. But they're peas in a pod, but they're disagreeable. So they're going to fight.
Yes,
and we're going to watch it. And it's going to be interesting. Yeah, it's going to be interesting, but I would say to everyone, they say revolution will not be televised. So when they're fighting, it doesn't mean that the ground is safe for anybody. As they fight, everything else is getting damaged. All spaces become unstable. As they lose security in themselves, everything else becomes destabilized unless it has its own roots. So everyone find your roots.
That's
Roots and
right.
culture.
I think we're gonna end on that. Find the roots, Find the roots in the music with Tamara.
Yes, thank you, brother.
And find it with
God
Black
bless you,
Open
brother.
University
Bless
right
you,
here.
brother.
Bless. Hope you enjoyed the show, and we'll be signing out right now with this one.
My doctor say my girl day on top your body, yo. All the times where I do you bad, I'm sorry, yo. Give me love, way better pass money, yo. But shit's pass the honey, yo. If I fight, make I fight for the love. If I grace, make I grace for the love. No one, no complication. This is a situation. If I grace, make I grace for the love. If I fight, I go fight for the love. No one, no complication. This is a situation. Baby, yo, I want to love you for life. Baby, yo, come make I love you for life. I die with my blessing now. Baby girl, you are the one. Love where I love you now. This kind of love where I love you now. Girl, I wanna be your customer. For your love, I be your hustler. Love where I love you now. Every superwoman is a superman. Your love give me joy where I know beauty understand. Fine girl, you don't need no other man. No other man. Your love give me joy where I know beauty explain. Girl, I wanna give you good love and love no other. You make you bust up my medulla. You make you rise up my temperature. Girl, I wanna give you sweet love and love no other. You make you bust up my medulla. So now you make you rise up my temperature. My doctor say my girl day on top your body, yo. All the times where I do you bad, I'm sorry, yo. Give me love way better pass money, yo. Where sweets pass the honey, yo. If I fight, make I fight for the love. If I grace, make I grace for the love. No one, no complication. This is a situation. If I grace, make I grace for the love. If I fight, I go fight for the love. No one, no complication. This is a situation. Baby, yo, I want to love you for life. Baby, yo, come make I love you for life. I die with my best in love. Baby girl, you are the one. Love where I love you now. This kind of love where I love you now. Love where I love you now. I wanna be your customer. For your love, I be your hustler. Love where I love you now.
If I take her to the room, she gon' know. She gon' know we never do. Find out where they gonna run. Tell her where they gonna go. If I take her to the room, she gon' know. She gon' know we never do. Tell her where they gonna go. Tell her where they gonna go.
Y le que lo vaya.